Welcome to Dem Boyz, a podcast that's rediscovered the joy of living. We're one Saints fan and one Cowboys fan, one fan of Who Dat and one fan of Dat Win. We're here to give weekly takes, game recaps, bad betting picks, game previews, and Seinfeld references.
This week's episode is brought to you by Aravius Ray Armstrong. Linebacker from the University of Miami, started his career in 2013 with the then St. Louis Rams before moving on to the Oakland Raiders, San Francisco 49ers, New York Giants, and Cleveland Browns. And then in 2019, he played for both the Saints and the Cowboys. 5 games with the Saints, 1 game with the Cowboys. And then finished up his career in 2020 with the Seattle Seahawks. I'm Paul, the Saints fan.
I'm Brandon, the Cowboys fan.
And we're your hosts. Now it's go time.
Yeah, that's it. It's go time. Let's see you lift that.
Mr. Mandelbaum, please.
It's go time.
This one's for you, Pop. It's go time.
It's go time.
You've been married 3 times.
That's it! It's go time!
It's go time.
All right. A few housekeeping items here. If you'd like to contact the show, do so via email at blessdemboys@gmail.com. That's BLESSDEMBOYZ@gmail.com. We're still holding out when LeBron comes back from his Twitter break that he'll follow us. But in the meantime, if you'd like to follow us, we are on Twitter at bless_dem_boys, capital B, capital D, capital B. You can follow myself at Paul Elliott _316. That's PAULELLIOTT _316. Brandon is at Ball from Grace. The show is available to stream on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So please like, share, subscribe, leave a rating and review. Appreciate all the feedback. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell random strangers on the street. All right. We'll get into rediscovering the joy of living here in a minute. But in the meantime, Brandon, what did you? Well, let me start that over. Here at Bless Some Boys, we do pride ourselves on talking about other things.
But enough about fish. I can discuss other things,
So, Brandon, what did you get into this week?
So I have been enjoying the joys of gambling, especially with college basketball. So I watched a lot of that this past week. Was on. I feel like I've been on the awful, like a lot of the wrong end of some bad beats this week. There's one game, I want to say it was like Florida Atlantic. I had a minus, what was it? -5. I had a team that was like -4.5, and they were up 4, got fouled, 3.5 seconds left.
Okay.
Go to the line. So you're up 4, hit those 2 free throws. Oh no, it was -2.5. So you're up 4.
Okay.
Get fouled with 3.5 seconds left, right? Hit those 2 free throws. 3 can't hurt you. You're all good. 3.5 seconds left. Misses one of those, so now you're up 5.
All right.
That's fine. All you need, the only thing that can kill you here now is a half-court heave. The half-court heave banks in off the backboard, goes in. So that was one. I also managed to win one on Monday. I watched the Mount Invitationals going on, which features actually some of the better matchups in college basketball. It's kind of a good. I think a lot of like some of the better teams tend to like get to play in there, so you get to see some of the better teams match up. Get a feel for what those teams are. So I had Memphis money line like +320 against UConn. They were up 13 with 3 minutes left. Blew the lead, went to overtime, managed to pull that one out. On the other side of that,
was this the game that Danny Hurley lost?
Lost his mind. Like he got a technical foul, and he probably could have had 3 before that because he was screaming at the officials the entire game. So they did manage to pull that one out for me. North Dakota State, the home of the beloved Cowboys legend Trey Lance, and Cowboys enemy Carson Wentz, however, tonight blew a 13-point lead as I want to say they were like plus 410 for me, up 10 points with like 3 minutes to go, and have now lost in overtime. So I've been watching a lot of college basketball, and been getting my blood pressure up. I also started this. I'm going to go with a little bit of a deep cut for you on Netflix here, Paul.
Okay.
Started season 2 of The Law According to Lydia Poet, which is
go on.
It's an Italian show. I don't remember how I found it, but like it's you can watch it either in a dubbed English version or in the original Italian with subtitles. I do the original Italian because the language sings, Jerry.
Of course,
the language.
Of course, it's the language.
Yeah, so I think it's based on a true story, but it's about like this woman who's trying to kind of like fight. She's not able to be a lawyer because of the laws of the time don't permit her. It's like set in the 1800s, so she's not allowed to do that.
It's like Frank can't be president.
Yeah,
because he's
yeah, and so
he never got into politics. So.
So she's fighting against that, and so she's also like there's like a mystery element to it. So she's like solving crimes and stuff. So there's like a detective part of it, but that's been really good. Season 2 just came out on Netflix, so I watched the first 2 episodes of that. What about you, Paul? I think last week you told us that you had a big date Friday.
Yeah,
I think you were in this event when the Giants dropped the news about Danny Dimes, because I texted you with Giants. What are you doing?
So my wife and I attended an early showing of Gladiator 2 on Friday. We both took the day off from work, just because that's when you have kids, like that's kind of what you have to do sometimes. So I'm in the theater and my phone keeps buzzing, and I look at it and I see a text from you. It says Giants, and then the next one says WYD. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, they either cut Daniel Jones or they fired Dayball, or both.
Yeah. Maybe they they could have been a package deal.
They would have been a package deal, but yeah. I mean, look, I kind of see the well. I guess we could talk about it later, but yeah. So Gladiator. Let's talk about Gladiator 2 for a second. Very good. If you've seen the original Gladiator, I would recommend seeing Gladiator 2. I would also recommend seeing it in a theater. I don't know if the experience
won't transfer to the small screen quite the same.
Yeah. I would recommend seeing it in theater. The best part of the movie by far is Denzel Washington, but I mean that's no surprise because Denzel's awesome. But yeah, I mean I definitely I'll give it a thumbs up. I'll say it's more of a Vincent pick than a Gene pick. But highly recommend. I don't want to get too much
Why
into
don't
it.
you just tell me the movie you want to see?
Why don't you just tell me the name of the movie? And then I also did a little more Bond movie watching. I watched the most recent Bond movie, No Time to Die, which is the last one that Daniel Craig will be a part of.
Have they announced who the next Bond is going to be yet? I don't think they have.
They are in the process of searching for the next Bond.
They're in the selection process. They're going all out.
Yes,
for the pre-draft tape. Like they're in the pre-draft process.
Correct.
Right now, basically.
Correct. Yeah. When the smoke rises from wherever, I don't know, I guess England, somewhere in England, the smoke will rise and you'll know that they've chosen a new James Bond. I don't know who. I haven't even heard really who who's in the running. I know Once Upon a Time I've heard like Idris Elba. I've heard Tom Hardy's been a name that's been thrown
Tom
around.
Hardy would be a good one. I think I'm a big Tom
Yeah,
Hardy fan. Like I've loved basically everything
yeah,
that he's been in. He
yeah.
would
Me
be a good.
too. Yeah, I think it would be good. But
Oh,
yeah,
by
we'll
the
see.
way, I should mention since you brought up Denzel Washington, who is
Mhm.
also a Dallas Cowboy fan,
Well,
because
there's
I remember this when it was during like one of the like um, bonus clips around Remember the Titans. He talked about how he had always been a Cowboys fan and like playing the role of the head coach. It was like he basically was like, I'm going to pretend that I'm the coach of the Dallas Cowboys for this. Like that was his motivation in that. So
well,
Denzel Washington, Cowboys fan.
and his son John David Washington was in the NFL. Uh, he's now an actor. You've seen him. His probably most famous role is Tenet. He was the protagonist in Tenet, but he played the NFL. I forget what team he was. I want to say he was on the Rams
I will
practice
say
squad
there
or
no relation to should have been Super Bowl 28 MVP James Washington though. No relation.
no, no, I don't believe so. Don't believe so. The other thing I'll just mention here on Sunday night, while I was somewhat paying attention to Eagles and Rams, um, I was also watching a benefit concert. It's called Soul Shine. It's a benefit for hurricane relief, so it was uh, meant to benefit the folks affected by the hurricanes in North Carolina and Florida. It was a couple of the bands that I particularly like. Dave Matthews Band performed. Goose was. We talked about Goose last week. They were there. Warren Haynes.
Maverick was not there.
Maverick was not there. No, he Maverick did not show up. Warren Haynes, Derek Truck, Susan Tedeschi. Have you heard of Nathaniel Ratliff and the Night Sweats?
Yes, I think I have. That name sounds
Yep.
familiar.
They have
They're
a they
another
have a
like
song.
jam band, right?
They're kind of jam band, little country
Country, yeah.
vibe to them. They have a song called "SOB" that you may have heard. Um,
Uh,
but
sounds familiar.
yeah, you might if you heard them, you might ring a bell.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was on YouTube. It was from Madison Square Garden. They streamed it on YouTube. It was like 5 hours. I ended up watching a good chunk of it, and it was really good. So I think it's still on YouTube if you just search Soul Shine Benefit. If you want to check it out, I would highly recommend it. So,
Oh, nice.
all right, let's move on to some football of the college variety. What college games did you check out this weekend?
So we were texting about the Ohio State Indiana. We were in the middle of a grocery run when that game started during the first half. I think we got to Pluckers right as the second half was ready to kick off. And I said, we were updating about the score. We were saying Indiana needs a good drive to start the second half. I want to say they went like 3-and-out, and then Ohio State returned the punt for a touchdown. And at that point, the game was over.
Yeah, yeah. Indiana got the ball first in the second half, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Went through. Yeah, just like what you just said. And then you text me at that point. I actually dozed off in the second half.
Yeah, I don't think you really missed anything on that.
Because I remember I awoke and I saw your text because I had the multi-view on, and when I awoke, it was at commercial, and I saw your text and something to the effect of, "Well, I think it's over," and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay,
that's gonna do it."
well,
that's
a shame."
Yeah, I watched Texas Kentucky, which was about what we expected. I think Kentucky's had a pretty tough. They've been pretty stout defensively this year, so I thought they played them about as tough as you expected. But Texas hung some points on them, which I was pretty happy about. They didn't cover the spread, but I think that worked out for me. from that perspective because I did bet Kentucky plus the points.
There you go.
And then I ended up staying up to watch the end of the Texas A&M Auburn game. So shout out to Auburn for knocking those pesky Aggies down a notch.
War Eagle and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. How about yourself? What did you end up watching?
Yeah, I watched Ohio State, Indiana. I watched a little of Florida and Ole Miss. Florida stringing some wins together for Billy Napier there, so it looks like he might keep his job after all.
Part of a couple of the games that they lost, I think the Texas game, they didn't have their quarterback right, and so like they've actually, I think their point differential is also pretty good too. So like it seems like they're at least moving in the right direction. So Napier might get a stay of execution.
Yeah, I think so. At this point, I mean, they just beat LSU and Ole Miss back-to-back weeks. They're probably going to finish the season. I would imagine they're going to finish the season bowl eligible. Maybe
LSU on the other hand, LSU that is a story that's going in the opposite direction very quickly.
Yeah, for sure. I mean they're looking for ways to get out of the Brian Kelly experience, but I don't know. might be a tough.
I mean, it's not like they don't have the money. Like the money's there. If they want to get rid of Brian Kelly,
I just don't know if they want to be paying three coaches technically, because Ed Orgeron, I think, still
collecting them checks.
Still collecting checks. But I also watched Kansas and Colorado. That was a little bit of a surprise. Kansas is another team that kind of last 2 weeks is.
I think it's been a little more than like 2 to 3, 4 weeks now. They've kind of like strung some wins together.
Yeah, shout out to Blake, the Chiefs fan, who is a Kansas alum. So Rock Chalk Jayhawk and whatnot. But yeah, they beat BYU and Colorado and Iowa State 3 weeks in a row. That's their last 3 wins. So
that's a pretty solid resume right there, just in the last 3 weeks.
And they're still not bowl eligible. They still only have 5 wins. But if they beat Baylor this week, then they'll be ready to go. I don't know how the bowls are going to work this year because
it's going to be a little different.
Yeah, I usually around this time of year I'll start looking at bowl projections, and it just feels weird this year, just with all the other stuff going on with the playoff and whatnot.
How'd you do on your college picks? You texted me at early. It was you got off to a rough start. It doesn't look like that improved over the course of the day.
Yamahama. It was Fright Night. And honestly, a lot of these were not bad beats. It wasn't like last week where I was 3-7 for the week. 60. I'm still 68 and 62 for the year. But yeah, it was rough.
See, those are the worst.
One hurt. Yeah.
The worst weeks are the ones where you can't say, I just had, those backdoor covers really killed me. If those didn't happen, I would have been fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it's just I was on the bad side and my team didn't even look close. That's when it doesn't feel quite as good.
Well, like for example, I had Alabama minus 13.5, and they just didn't show up in Norman. So
that is brutal. And the people are talking about Alabama getting into the playoff. Like, I don't understand how you can do that at this point. Like, they have had ugly losses.
Yeah, I don't know. They're gonna. I really think somebody. I don't remember who tweeted this, but I saw a tweet somewhere that they're talking about how they're doing these brackets every week, and they're like they should have done 2 brackets, one at the beginning and one at the end, and that's it. Because all you're doing right now with these brackets is just setting people up for like that scenario where, Alabama ends up in the tournament, ends up in the playoff, and everybody's like, what? Like how? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm going to be interested to see, obviously the season's winding down. This is the last week of the quote unquote regular season coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got the big like Ohio State, Michigan's this week, and UT and A&M. That's the game day game. Obviously, the Auburn result made that game a little less climactic, I guess. But UT still got to win, right, to get in the SEC championship. So
I was going to say, I was kind of looking at the standing. I was like, does A&M still get in with a win? Like, is that enough to get them in?
I thought I saw.
Like, I didn't look at the
I thought I
tiebreak.
saw somewhere. I thought I saw somewhere Sunday morning where it was announced that it's Georgia versus the winner of Texas and A&M.
Okay, that makes
So
sense to me.
don't know how the. So I'm just looking at the standings real quick. So if A&M were to win, they would be 6-2. Assuming that Tennessee wins, they would be 6-2. Texas would be 6-2. So, but A&M beat them. I don't think A&M played Tennessee. But hang on, is there maybe it's like a ranking thing?
Yeah, it looks like the from WSB TV 2 in Atlanta.
Okay.
They will the winner of the UT A&M game will advance to face the Bulldogs in Atlanta.
Well, I think the other thing too is Tennessee lost to Georgia, so maybe that eliminates them. I don't know. Like,
yeah, that would make sense.
I don't know. Because I think the other tiebreaker comes down to where they end up ranked in the following week's rankings,
Overall.
And I guess they're just assuming if A&M beats Texas, that's going to jump them into the top 10. I don't know.
I guess so.
Tennessee also has to beat Vanderbilt this week, which, it's not. Nobody just walks into Vanderbilt anymore and gets a W. So,
hey, those Longhorns managed to do it. I just need Texas to take care of business next Saturday. Let me take care of business so I can post the meme that I've been saving up for this entire season.
Well, boys and girls, if that's not a reason to tune in, then I don't know what is.
That's right. I'll send it to you just in case it doesn't happen. So we're on the same page. But
again, follow us at Bless Dem Boys for at bless_dem_boys to see it. I hope maybe.
That's right.
All right, let's get into the professional side of things. I'll go first here with the weekly recaps. 7-6 for the week. Actually, I think were we not both? Oh no, you had the Chargers. That's right.
That's right.
I was like, did we not both have the Ravens? But you switched it. Okay, so 7-6 for the week for me. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, because on the show last week, I took the 49ers to upset the Packers once it was confirmed that Purdy was out. I was like, there's no way. I don't trust a guy who hasn't started a game in how long has it been? I didn't even know who their backup was. I'm gonna be honest with you. Yeah, that's about the level of confidence you have to have. So I was like, there's no way I'll just take Green Bay and live with the consequences here. And I was like, I don't know who else to take. I'm just going to take the Chargers based on the fact that the Ravens defense
should the 49ers be in the Danny Dimes business at this point potentially? Maybe we can talk about that later, but
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I think at this point they're probably just in let's ride the season out and fix things in the off season. I don't think there's anything that could salvage the season right now.
Yeah. All right, so I was 7-6 for the week. You were 6-7. I'm 84-95 for the year, and you're 88-91. Those are all against the spread.
Correct.
For me, straight up, I was also 7-6 for the week, and for the year, I am 104-75 straight up. So, actually, that might be 105-75 now. Hang on, let me pull this up real quick. While I'm pulling that up, I still have the entire NFC South correct at this point because The Saints and Falcons were both off, so they couldn't lose. Tampa won, and Carolina lost, and so
There's
we're
a
still.
feather in your cap.
So there you go. Like you said last week, I know my own division. I guess
That's right.
for what it's worth. Yeah, 104 and 75 for the year. That's what. Okay, that's what I said. All right. I also had. Excuse me. I also had. Yeah, so it's 7 teams. I have correct. So the 4 in the NFC South. I also have the Seahawks. I have them right at 6 and 5. I had the Ravens, and I have the Giants. Those are my teams I've correctly predicted up to this point. So the Jets are still my albatross there, as they are for the New York fans as well at this point.
The Jets had just changed their mascot to an albatross at this point.
Yeah, well, but that's all right. Aaron Rodgers is going to come back next year, so
we should also talk about our upsets and locks because the Blessed Dem Boyz special once
That's
again hits. You took it at plus 422 over on Rebet. I took it at plus 463 on Flip. Yeah, so we made some cash this week. I took the Bucks over the Giants, and you had the Titans over the Texans, which I'm sure we'll get to later. But you are now 8-2 on upsets, Paul. That's quite impressive.
Hey, man. Yeah, almost as good as your 9-1 on locks.
Man,
and we're both about. Wait, so are you? I'm 6-4 in my locks. What are you on your upsets?
I am now 5-5.
5-5, right? Okay.
Yeah, because I took the Chargers this week.
So there you go. So yeah, we're from that perspective, on my lock and your upset, we're right in that meaty part of the curve.
That's
not showing off.
Huh. That's the important thing, right?
All right. Well, let's get into the Week 12 recap here. So we had 6 teams on a bye. The Saints, their bye week brought to you by Deuce McAllister. Falcons bye week brought to you by Jamal Anderson. The Bills bye week brought to you by Clarence Pooh Bear Williams. The Bengals brought to you by Icky Woods. Jaguars brought to you by one of Brandon's cousins, Snoop Connor. And the Jets bye week brought to you by Elijah McGuire. So let's start with the Thursday night game. Mike Tomczak presented Browns 24, Steelers 19. We were opposed on this. I had the Browns plus 3.5. You had the Steelers minus 3.5. So yay for me.
This was a good old-fashioned NFC North battle played out in the snow. Like, it's one of those games where it's just like fun to watch, right? Like, those are the outdoor games where you're like, oh man, this is just makes you love football, right?
Yeah, this is one of those games where, as a kid who grew up in the South, but my whole life, I've never lived anywhere other than Texas or Louisiana. Seeing snow like that makes you feel like, oh yeah, I bet it wouldn't be that bad living up, in a place like that. And then we have a freeze like we did a few years back, and
there's a difference though. We just get ice. We don't get the fluffy snow that's fun to play around in.
That's true. Yeah.
We get garbage, sleet, and dirty ice flakes. Like there's a little bit of a difference there.
That's fair. Yeah, look, I'm happy for Jameis, man. I'm happy to see him playing well, and I'm happy for Cleveland too, just for those fans, just to have something to be happy about. Real quick on the Steelers. So we talked about this earlier in the year because their schedule was very much backloaded.
Mm-hmm.
They did not play a divisional game until last week when they played the Ravens. And now they're playing 3 in a row. So they play the Ravens, they play the Browns, and now they're going to play the Bengals this week. And then they're going to play the Browns again the following week. And then they've also got games against the Eagles and the Chiefs coming down the road. Are they in trouble, do you think?
No, I mean, this game was like a toss-up game that they kind of like gave away a lead late in the game. NFC North games tend to be close. I still think the like foundation is there. I think they're probably not as good as the Ravens. They're probably going to regress on some of the deep ball passes that Russ has been able to connect on down the field. But I think overall, like the foundation is there. The offense still has enough firepower with what Russ has done since he's come in. They've like worked in Justin Fields on some like design packages that they have for him. Like I think this game was kind of a little bit fluky. The weather seemed to play a factor as well. So I think fundamentally they're still fine. They're still probably going to make the playoffs. They'll still be okay. So I'm not too worried about them if they start to put together losses or they start to like this seems like a one game short week, go on the road, weather's a factor, blew a late lead sort of loss where it's you can kind of shrug that off. But next week they'll have a little bit of extra time to prepare. Like you can write this off as it's a write off. They'll just write it off.
You don't even know what a write off is.
Well, they do, and they're the ones writing it off. So yeah, unless they start to like look fundamentally unsound, or like they're starting to get blown out, or they start to string together a bunch of losses, I'm not too concerned about them at this point yet.
What'll be interesting, and we'll talk about this when we preview their upcoming game. So they'll be coming off kind of a mini bye, going Thursday to Sunday. The Bengals, the team they're playing, is coming off a legitimate bye. So, I think I'm with you, but it's something to keep your eye on. I think with this team,
I want to say
maybe
the Bengals are actually favored in that game too, aren't they? Like going into this,
yeah, they are. There, which I'm not surprised. It's in Cincinnati.
Cincinnati still has a good offense.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more when we get to the previews for Week 13. But for now, good win for the Browns. Happy for them. Happy for Jameis. But I'm going to keep an eye on the Steelers there, especially since I put money down on them to win the division. I think I did.
I think you did.
I put a few shillings down on them. While I'm pulling that up, let's push forward to at plus 149. I got them to win the division. All right, the early slate on Sunday. So we're gonna group three games here together because they were three of the wildest games of the entire season.
The insanity trio.
The insanity trio. I'm gonna let you cook on your boys here in a minute, but Terrell McClain presented Cowboys 34, Commanders 26. Kelvin Benjamin presented Chiefs 30, Panthers 27. And then Chester Taylor presented Vikings 30, Bears 27 in overtime. So let's start with Dem Boyz. This was one of the wildest games I've seen in a long time. Talk me through, as a fan of the Cowboys, what this was like.
I mean, for the better part of the game, Dallas moved the ball efficiently on offense, and I think that was one of the bright spots early. Is like they had the blocked field goal, they had a missed field goal, but other than that, like they were able to basically move the ball at will against Washington early on. It was an ugly game. But I thought the defense, like Washington, was basically handed points by that blocked field goal return. But the defense played really well. From what I heard is I was listening to the Athletic Football podcast with Robert Mays, and they talked about they kind of leaned back into the let's kind of cause chaos on the front and then play a bunch of man coverage to kind of match up with what Washington's trying to do behind, because they have Terry McLaurin, but outside of that, their like receiving options aren't that great. And that was effective, basically. And then Dallas really had this game kind of put away until, Washington had that Hail Mary pass. Like which would have tied it. But shout out to John Carney.
Oh, you mean Austin Seifert or
Yeah,
whatever?
We have two throwback plays here. So the first is the John Carney missed extra point after the incredible
Yeah,
like
if
what should have been a game tying play.
if I may, the year was 2003. It was Saints at Jaguars.
Mm-hmm.
I had to look this up because for years I thought this was the last game of the season. It was not. It was the second to last game of the season. Saints needed to win to stay in the playoff hunt. Jaguars score with like less than, I think it was like 9 seconds on the clock or something like that. They kicked the ball. And the other thing I always forget is I always thought it was a kickoff lateral, but it wasn't.
No, it was an actual play.
It was an actual play. Aaron Brooks, shout out Saints legend Aaron Brooks, throws a pass to he initially throws it to, I believe it was Dante Stallworth, who then laterals it to a couple people. Deuce McAllister was involved, and it finally ends up in the hands of Jerome Pathon, who runs it in with no time left, and it's and they're down by 1 point. And I'll never forget. I was home from college at this point, sitting on the living room floor of my parents' house, watching this, and they're showing the replay. And my dad had been outside; he hadn't been watching the game that much, and he comes inside just in time to see the replay. And they're lining up for the extra point. And my dad, I swear to God, he says, "Oh, they'll miss this." He's like, "Watch, they're going to miss this extra point." And sure enough, John Carney, who's one of the more, I looked it up, his like extra point percentage in his career, I want to say it was like 98.6%. It was
this was back when the extra point was like a chip shot gimme.
Of course, yeah.
This was not the current day extra point.
Yeah, it was like, you're kicking from like the
20
like 7-yard line, right?
Yeah,
it was like a 7 or whatever. And yeah, he just shanks it, like just pushes it to the right, and that's it. That's the end of the game. I mean, because there was
no time on the clock.
At least in this situation for Washington, they had time, which will lead us to our next throwback play, which before you get into it. So they onside kick, Washington does. And who is it? Turpin returns it? Who returned it?
You're talking about the onside kick, right?
Yeah, the onside kick in this game, in the Washington in the game.
Yeah, that is Wanye Thomas, who is a backup safety, and so like everyone is saying like this is you're supposed to get down if you're a backup safety in that and who mainly plays on special teams. You're not getting down because like you never get to score a touchdown in that situation.
Well, here's the thing. I totally forgot you could advance an onside kick. Mm-hmm. I think it's in college you can't, right?
Maybe. Like, I don't know the college.
I thought there was. I think it's. I don't know. Maybe. So that was my text. My initial text to you was, "Wait, you can advance that?" And then, once it kind of settles from there, I realized, like, wait a minute, they're only up 8 points. Like Washington could still
get back in this game.
So the next day, of course, everybody's like, to your point, everybody's like, "Oh, why didn't he just fall down and whatever?" But it ends up working out. So talk about your throwback.
So this was so the Eagles, when they had played the Cowboys, it was back in Andy Reid's tenure with the Eagles. They had started a game against the Cowboys with an onside kick. They had recovered it. So Bill Parcells comes in, takes over the Cowboys. He had talked to them, getting them prepared for this. They said, "Hey, be ready in case they try this onside kick again." Well, they do. On the opening play, Randall Williams jumps in front of Roderick Hood on the opening play.
Okay.
And at this point, the Cowboys have not beat the Eagles in a long time because the Cowboys have, like, this Aikman's been gone for 5 years. Irvin's been gone, or I think Aikman's been gone for 4 years. Irvin's been gone for 5.
Yep.
They're in the Quincy Carter. They're just past the Quincy Carter stages. Parcells has come on. They haven't beat the Eagles in forever. Randall Williams jumps in front of Roderick Hood, grabs the ball and takes it to the house. It's still the fastest touchdown to start a game in NFL history. Like that record still hasn't been broken. And so like that is so they end up going on to win that game like handily. So that play will forever be burned in my mind because like Randall Williams, Roderick Hood, that play basically like sets them up to win the game. But I think one of the things we should talk about here is like the Cowboys offense was efficient. But more than that, the defense, like outside of the kind of garbage time plus the prevent defense Hail Mary can't seem to tackle Terry McLaurin play. Jaden Daniels was not particularly effective this game. Their run game actually also didn't give them anything either.
So I'm assuming you watched most of this game. Does Daniels look injured to you? Like he
didn't look specifically injured, but I thought the Cowboys actually. I think teams have kind of adjusted to what he wants to do. He hasn't been scrambling lately, and I think the Cowboys actually like were able to prevent him from doing that as well. So I don't know if that's he didn't look injured. It looked more like his scrambles teams have adjusted to what he wants to do when he scrambles, or they've been more cognizant of preparing for that. So if it is an injured thing, I couldn't see it. It looked more just like it wasn't there.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's kind of wrap this up this way. So if we're not worried about the Steelers, I think we definitely should be worried about, well, you're probably not worried about the Commanders, but
oh no, I love the direction they're heading right now.
if you're a fan of the Commanders, or if you potentially have interest in how the Commanders do, you definitely should be worried because I think they also are kind of in a tough part of their schedule. They still have to play the Eagles again, sure. They have to play the Cowboys again. I know that. And they also have games like I know they play the Saints, they play Atlanta. They have Tennessee this week, which again we'll talk about. Can't wait to talk about Tennessee here in a minute. But this could go from and the other thing I'll mention, we talked about that Hail Mary against the Bears. Like if that Hail Mary doesn't land, we're looking at a 6-6 team at this point. So
I would say if you're a Washington fan, you're probably long-term outlook is still relatively positive. Your short-term outlook is less positive than you thought it was 3 weeks ago, right? Like it's okay. For sure. It's okay. Maybe some of that early season success was against bad teams, probably not as good as it's going to be long-term. Teams are going to adjust to rookie quarterbacks. Like I think sometimes like players light the league on fire when they first come in, and we like expect that to just continue to be the
status quo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it just like teams are going to adjust to you, and they're going to figure out what your strengths are, and they're going to take that away. And like that's going to happen with any quarterback. Daniels is probably still projects as a net positive moving forward, but he's not going to be like you can't project him as Lamar Jackson based on just the fact that he was great for the first 8 to 9 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I meant that more as for this season, not necessarily because but yeah, you're probably if you finish if they
make the playoffs, they're probably happy, right? That's all found money.
Yeah, even if they don't, if they finish, they're 7-5 right now. If you'd have told a Commanders fan at the beginning before the season, hey, you're going to finish no worse than 7-10, they probably would have taken that.
No, absolutely.
So, real quick, one last thing about the John Carney thing. That was the 2003 season. As I mentioned, for years I thought that was the last game of the season. Do you know what the Saints' last game of the season was that year? 2003.
No, well, was it Cowboys Saints?
It was Cowboys Saints. It was in the Superdome. The Cowboys were playoff bound.
Oh, what year was that? 2003.
2003.
Oh yeah, that was the year that was with that was that Parcells' first year?
I don't know if it was his first year, but the Saints ended up beating the Cowboys 13-7. It didn't look like so, and there were no points scored in the fourth quarter of that game. And then the Cowboys would go on to lose in the first round of the playoffs that year to the Panthers. I want to say that's the year the Panthers.
Let me say something about that Panthers game. I remember complaining about the refs in that game to my uncle because they were during the game they were talking about the Panthers and all the money they had raised for charity. And like at halftime of that game, I looked at my uncle and I said, "You know, they tell you about all the money they raised for charity. They don't tell you how much of that goes to the refs for this game."
Zing. That was the Panthers Super Bowl year. That was Jake Daylight coming. You got a DeLone. That was they ended up winning the Super Bowl year.
That was some of Parcells' best work because the Cowboys went to the playoffs with Quincy Carter as their starting quarterback.
Hey, shout out to Quincy Carter. All right, so let's get to these other two games. So kind of simultaneous to that crazy game, we had the Panthers putting a scare into the Chiefs. I found this I found this tweet from around the NFL. Panthers are only the third team in the Andy Reid era to score on 75% of their drives against the Chiefs. So I mean that's something, right? I mean like you know if you're only the third team to do it, and Andy Reid started coaching the Chiefs, I want to say in 2013.
It's you know, I was thinking about this the other day. It's amazing how long he's been with that team now.
Right, because he's no longer thought of as the Eagles coach. He's the Chiefs coach. Like he's not, you know, like.
Do you remember the Chiefs Colts playoff game where they blew like a massive lead in the second half?
Was that the Andrew Luck one?
Yeah, I want to say yes because like because they were up like 21 points and they basically just kept passing the ball. It was
Mahomes.
Yes, absolutely it was.
Yeah, that was the one where at one point Luck handed the ball off to whoever the running back was and he fumbled and then Luck recovered and scored. If I remember correctly, there was a play like that. But yeah, no. So the takeaways here. If you're a Panthers fan, you feel much better about the direction of your team at this point, I would think, than you did, say, a month ago. Bryce Young looks like
competent.
I'm not. Yeah, I mean, look, I think you and I were talking about this before we went live, but I think they're at a point now, the Panthers, that they feel good that okay, we don't have to draft a quarterback in the first round at this point.
Yeah,
if we can just
draft some role players and continue to build around him.
And then like worst case scenario, if they say lose a couple games down the stretch, but he keeps playing like he's playing and you get maybe the number 1 or number 2 pick, you can trade back with a team that is needy for a quarterback, get some more capital, get a bunch, get players around Bryce. I mean, Chuba Hubbard looks like the real deal at running back and
you still got Jonathan Brooks like coming off
you
got that potential backup
and Miles
monster.
Miles Sanders.
So they could have
there.
Oh, they could still have they had D'Angelo Williams and
Jonathan Stewart.
Jonathan Stewart. They could have a version 2 of that.
Yep. Yeah. I think the needle is pointing up for the Panthers. Now, for the Chiefs, we need to start having a discussion about them because I think, and we've talked about this before, I think they're going to win. And I say think. I'm not saying for sure they're going to win their. Well, yeah, they'll probably win the AFC West. it's a question whether or not they're the 1 seed at this point because
Buffalo
all it,
seems like they're.
well, all it takes is one more loss because
Mhm.
Buffalo beat them. So if they just stub their toe one more time, and they still have to play, I know they have to play Denver again, and I think they have to play the Chargers again. So like, if they stub their toe one more time, and they have I know they play the Texans and Pittsburgh also at some point. But like if they stub their toe one more time, now they go from the 1 seed to potentially maybe the 3 seed. Like if it's Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh puts some wins together and beat them, like uh, I know we said at the beginning of the season it was all about get them to the playoffs, stay healthy, all that. But you
Well,
also
for one,
kind of have
for one they haven't stayed healthy. Like,
well, yeah,
and
that's true.
that's kind of part of the reason they've looked like this is the fact that they have lost people to injury. But like the fact is, like we keep saying, okay, they're just trying to get to the postseason, but like there's a difference between just like getting to the postseason and looking like
Right.
allowing bad teams to just constantly hang around, and that seems like what
Yep.
they're doing. And you just can't get away with that. I think we saw that against Buffalo. It's like you can't do that against good teams, and at some point you expect that to like come back and bite them. Like
Yeah, I'm
the
really
other versions
interested to see really interested to see how they respond this week against the Raiders. And then also too, you mentioned the injuries. Pacheco is due back any week now, I
Mhm.
think. So that'll definitely be
That's a
a
plus.
help. That's a plus, yeah, for sure. But yeah, so good for the Panthers. Chiefs need to get it together. And then the last game in this kind of trifecta of chaos here. Uh, so there I am watching Packers 49ers, and all of a sudden Kirk Menefee jumps in and says, "We go live to Chicago." And I'm thinking, why? The game should have been over. Like,
Did somebody blow up the stadium?
right? Like,
Did Bane show up?
right? And they're showing I think it's John Parker Romo, no relation to Tony, is
No
kicking the
relation.
game-winning field goal. Is kicking the game-winning field goal in overtime, and I text you and said, "What the hell happened? Like, why? How did this game get to overtime?" And then I go back and look, and oh, okay, so Chicago was down 11 with less than a minute, maybe less than 30 seconds. Score a touchdown, get a 2-point conversion, get an onside kick that hits a Viking in the leg. One of the blockers on the special teams just hits him in the leg, so the Bears recover. Get a couple passes, get into field goal position, and Santos, their kicker, kicks field goal. They go to overtime.
Cairo
So,
Santos, by the way, immaculate grid legend.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. All those kickers are like the hidden. I think we've mentioned this before. The kickers are the cheat code for a lot of these.
There's only one that you should not use, and that's Robbie Gould
Vinatieri.
between the Bear. Well, that too. Sorry, there's two. It's Robbie Gould and Adam Vinatieri, the two that you should not use because those actually will rack you up some points.
Right. But anyway, so I didn't watch a ton of this game, obviously, because I didn't even know that it went to overtime. But what I saw, Caleb. I mean, you have in the notes here, Caleb probably his best game of the year, especially
Mm-hmm.
considering the defense he was playing
Mm-hmm.
with Flores. I'm gonna keep pounding the table for Kevin O'Connell for Coach of the Year. I mean, it's really impressive at this point. I mean, if you think about, because here's what you have to remember: as good as the
Sam Darnold
Lions
is
have,
quarterback.
he has Sam Darnold as quarterback, and as good as the Lions have been, the Vikings are only a game behind them. Like, that's pretty remarkable if you think about it. Like, and again, with Darnold as your quarterback, maybe Danny Dimes will be his backup here at some point. I don't know, but
Mm-hmm.
um, Yeah, I mean, I think the Vikings are. I still don't trust them completely. Uh, and we'll talk about the other team in the NFC North here in a little bit, but
You can
I
never
don't
trust a
trust.
team that has Sam Darnold as its quarterback completely, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't. I just, I just don't. And we on the Bears real quick. We talked about. Uh, I actually sent a message to Andy, the Bears fan. I said, "I'm sorry, buddy," and he's like, "I'll have to look up exactly what he messaged me back, but it was something along the lines of like, yeah, we just keep finding ways to lose or something, you know." Or yeah, he said, I said, "Sorry," and he goes, "They love to give a little bit of hope."
Well,
So
I will say, like, part of this is I would feel a little bit more optimistic is the fact that, like, so one of the things that they struggled with beforehand is like Caleb Williams was just trying to hold on to the ball constantly, playing hero ball,
yeah,
kind of like what he wanted to do at USC. And like
yep,
since they made the offensive coordinator shift, is
yep,
they've kind of prioritized, hey, get the ball out, or if you don't see anything, just run with it.
right,
And that's been basically what's like improved the offense is basically like he's not holding it on and taking really bad sacks because the offensive line is bad, right? We know this. He's
right,
like, hey, check your reads. If that's not there, hey, take off. That's what we're going to build it on. And that's kind of how they've improved the offense. And like he's not getting killed anymore. He's actually had a couple of moments where he's like in this game, he made a couple of throws that were like, oh, these are the throws that we
right,
saw at
right.
USC that like the reason you're the number one pick is because of this sort of talent that we see. And that's, I think the fact that he like actually had this game against Robert Flores is like a very, very, very positive sign that that Bears fans can take moving forward,
Yeah,
especially as they continue to like build around him, continue to fill out that offensive line, and continue to like actually get some offensive play callers in place that actually might help him. Like, I think this is a step in the right direction for them. Even if they came back, even if they lose this game, like the long term prospects look better
yeah,
because of what happened.
yeah. They may look. They may end up being that same category you talked about, Washington, where you had a good start to the season, kind of, you know, based on the teams you were playing, and now you're in a tougher part of your schedule, and you can still look competitive, but maybe the wins just won't be there. Uh, but yeah, I think it's in the they're heading in the right direction. So, and we'll also see with their coaching situation. I don't know if Eberflus is definitely on the hot seat. I don't. It seems like Thomas Brown, the new offensive coordinator, is like you were talking about, is got Caleb going in the right direction. So,
Mm-hmm.
be interesting to see. They have a very interesting game this week, which we'll talk about here shortly. I'm going to let you introduce this next game.
All right, Davian Clowney presents Titans 32, Texans 27. This is big for the Blessed Dem Boys parlay special. Kaimi Fairbairn misses a field goal to tie it up. After that, the Titans are able to run it out. The Texans actually give up a safety. CJ Stroud actually pulled the Dan Orlovsky special by running out of the back of the end zone, correct?
You pulled it. Absolutely. Yeah. I think I texted you Orlovsky or something like that.
Yeah.
When it happened.
This is a continuation of the Texans, like their offense just continuing to be a mess. Basically, the fact that like they're inefficient on first and second downs. Stroud's turnover numbers. I think part of this. I read two different articles today about kind of talking about the Texans. One of them kind of painting a little bit more negative light. One of them still being a little bit more positive on Stroud. I think some of the memories that we have of Stroud's rookie season are colored by the fact that his turnover plays, like his number of interceptions were at an all-time low, but some of that was based on a little bit of luck, some dropped interceptions. And so he's probably still probably a top 10 to 15 quarterback. But the fact that we kind of expected him to just kind of take what he did in the first season and just continue to build on that exponentially just hasn't happened. And the Texans offense, like the offensive line has been a disaster. This was expected to be an improvement over last year. It hasn't. Stroud has kind of had some of those plays that last year didn't go his way, have gone back to more league average. The running game has been okay. I think Mixon's been a net positive for them, but the fact that they're like they're being inefficient on first and second down, setting them up with third and longs constantly has been a problem for the offense. I think the defense has been fine, but like the fact that they were handed points in this game based on a kickoff return, based on the muffed punt by the Titans, and they still lost.
And the Will Levis special, the pick six there.
Oh yeah, the throw it right to the safety in stride, and then and then we did get this week the memeable picture of Will Levis sprinting head down right after that interception.
Hey, you watch your tongue talking about Will Levis. Okay.
I would love Will Levis more if he had thrown the interceptions when we were betting it on him throwing the interceptions.
Yeah, that's fair. Will Levis, by the way, 18 of 24, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the one pick six. He was sacked 8 times too. That didn't help.
That was the thing I was going to say. Is like he was efficient when he actually threw the ball, but he was actually net inefficient because of the number of sacks that he took.
But here's the thing. Would you rather him take those sacks or try to throw it away? And
that's a fair that's a fair point. He did not. He only had the one interception that was returned for a touchdown, but he did not throw multiple interceptions in this game. So he was able to at least ate the ball instead of throwing it to the other team.
And I was watching a good bit of this game for our parlay purposes, but like there were some throws he had where it's like, oh, okay, this is a welcomed change. I mean, he had the one to Westbrook
Akine.
Westbrook Akine. It was like a one play drive. It was right after the pick six. I want to say.
That was like the Texans linebackers basically like hadn't like kind of blew the coverage correct. Like they bit really hard on the play fake. Someone didn't cover Westbrook Akine coming up the seam.
Yeah. No, it wasn't after the pick six. It was a couple drives later. But yeah, it was a 70-yard. No, it wasn't Akine. It was Okonkwo.
That's who I'm thinking of. The tight end.
Yeah. He did have a touchdown to Akine earlier, but yeah, it was the one I was thinking of.
Will Levis and Anthony Richardson seem kind of like very two sides of the same coin sort of player.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like very like high variance players that like the highs are very high and the lows are incredibly low.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Are you ready for my absurd path forward for both these teams?
All right, let's hear it. Because you talked about the Texans. Oh, and this is before you go on to that.
Go ahead.
The Barnwell article that I read this morning that kind of talked about this and the Stroud situation, Texans offense.
Yeah.
Said the pass in 2022 and 2023, the leader of the AFC South has gone on to choke away the division.
Yep. So this is what I was going to bring up. The Texans this year remind me of the Jaguars from last year. Stroud is kind of doing the Trevor Lawrence thing, where it's like he's kind of regressing down the stretch here. Remember, Jacksonville 2 years ago got to the playoffs, had that great win against the Chargers, that comeback win, and then last year started off hot. People were talking about them maybe being the 1 seed, and then they choked it away. Look at the Texans. They won the division last year. They beat the Browns in the playoffs. Same thing's happening here. So, just let me cook here for a second.
All right.
The Texans and the Titans play each other week 18. Okay?
Okay.
Before that, the Titans have 5 games. The Texans have 4 games because they have their bye mixed in. Their bye is next week. Titans are at Commanders, home Jaguars, home Bengals, at Colts, and then at Jaguars. So they play the Jaguars twice, and so they basically play all their division game minus the Texans included the last week. The Texans, meanwhile, let me start with the Texans so they play at Jacksonville this week, which should win.
Should win.
They have their bye. And then their 3 games before the Titans are home Dolphins, at Chiefs, home Ravens. Those are 3 very losable games.
Absolutely.
So let's, for the sake of this argument, let's say they go 1-3 in those 4 games. They are then 8-8. Are you telling me the Titans? So the Titans would have to win 5. Well, not even 5. They go win 4 out of 5. Because if they go 4-1, all right, that would put them at 7-9. Right? Just check me on my math here.
Okay.
So if the Titans are 7-9, the Texans are 8-8, week 18. Titans win. They get to
have the tiebreaker.
They would have the tiebreaker because they beat them twice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Titans would win the division at 8-9. Now this is also assuming that the Colts don't, blow up and they, I'm kind of discounting the Colts in this, but I should point out, I mentioned the Titans play the Colts in this stretch, so they would have beaten them as part of this run. Well, potentially beaten them, I guess, as long as one of those 4 wins that they have before the Texans game is the Colts. That's probably what it might come down to. But are you telling me the Titans can't go to Washington this week and beat the Commanders the way the Commanders
with that defense? Absolutely.
And then they play the Jaguars twice.
Have we gotten any confirmation on Trevor Lawrence's status for the rest of the year?
I think he's out. I thought he's out for the season. But they were.
Did they ever confirm it? I thought it was I know it was expected to miss. There was never. I don't know if I ever heard of strong confirmation on everything though.
All right, here we go. Well, okay. So Peterson said he practiced today. This is from I'm reading an article from Athlon Sports that was published about 5 hours ago. So Trevor's going to practice today, and then we'll see where he's at from there.
It would be kind of hilarious if the Texans actually lost this week to the Jaguars with Mac Jones.
Oh yeah, Well, that would be. Listen, we'll talk about it in a minute. I strongly considered the Texans or the Jaguars, I should say, as an upset.
I think we both did.
We both did, yeah. So, look. So here's the thing. You can call me crazy now, but if we get to Week 18 and we're previewing Week 18 and we're like, all right, Titans Texans for the AFC South,
we won't be surprised because
I want the apology. I want the apology to be as loud as the disrespect, or whatever the saying is. All right, let's move on to the other AFC South team here. Ricky Jean-Francois presents Alliance 24, Colts 6. So let's keep with the AFC South theme here. So the Colts, you talked about Richardson and Levis kind of being 2 sides of the same coin. Richardson showed signs. Look, there were a couple of drops in there. He had 2 or 3 plays called back for just penalties. He had one beautiful throw down the sideline, really good touch. I think it was to Josh Downs, and it got called back for a holding penalty. So he kind of like Levis is taking. I think he's taking those steps in the right direction. And look, it's tough. I mean, you're playing the Lions. The Lions are best team in football at this point. So
At this point, like I have no reason to doubt that. Like until the Lions show me a reason to like doubt them as the best team, just I'll just continue putting my money on them to cover.
yeah. So going off piggybacking off my crazy Titans theory, I mean the Colts could easily make a run at this too. I mean they're only, they're closer to the Texans than the Titans are. The problem with them is the Colts have already lost to the Texans twice.
Mm-hmm.
So
I combined like 5 points, I think.
Right. So now the Colts could potentially, if say a team like the Steelers starts to lose a couple games, because the Colts schedule down the stretch at Patriots, then they have their bye week, at Broncos, home Titans. So we talked about that game already a little bit, at Giants, and then home Jaguars. So they play Patriots, Giants, and Jaguars. Those are those are teams picking in the top 5 of the draft at this point. And then so those 2 games at Broncos and then home Titans will probably be the story for them for this season. And if Richardson can continue to develop and play well, who knows? We'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, for the Lions, until further notice, they are the team to beat. I want to say for them to win the Super Bowl on rebet, it's still plus 200 or something.
They're the place to be.
They are the place to be for sure. By the way, Colts to make the playoffs right now plus 265.
That feels low.
Yeah, so Vegas might know something.
They've also watched the Texans. They've also watched.
By the way, all right, I'm just gonna throw this out there: the Titans to win the AFC South. You want to take a guess?
Plus 375.
Plus 2,500.
What? Oh man, I might actually throw some money on that.
That's some sweet action.
That is some sweet action.
That's on rebet, by the way.
Okay.
And then now here's a little more reasonable. Over under Titans wins 5.5. You can get over for plus 110. What are they? They're at 3 right now, so they have to win 3 more games. So that might be a little more digestible. What's the AFC comp? No. Titans to win the AFC plus 70,000.
That is really sweet action.
So the Titans to make the playoffs is plus 1875.
Well, at that point, I just might as well take the Titans to win the AFC South.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna go crazy, you want to get nuts.
Let's get nuts. All right. Let's move on to the Rob Ninkovich presents the Dolphins 34, Patriots 15. To me, this is just Dolphins with Tua, completely different team than without Tua. Take care of business. Drake is still good. I wouldn't say anything against the Drake at this point. The Drake is not bad. I don't hate the Drake, but the Dolphins basically took care of business. They're still a very good team when Tua is the quarterback. Any qualms with that, Paul?
No, this is a game for the Dolphins. I just say, hey, good for you. You did what you had to do. You took care of business. And again, the Dolphins are also kind of in this position of they can now kind of make a run as long as Tua stays healthy, to your point.
Mm-hmm.
If Tua's healthy, they can make a run at this. The 7 seed's not too far afield for them. I don't think they're not going to make a run at the division at this point, but and look, for the Patriots, kind of similar story with the Commanders and with the Titans and with the Panthers, right? Like you have your quarterback. You have, well, more for the, I guess, Commanders, maybe more Commanders and Bears. Drake is your guy. So at worst, you're going to end up with a top 5 pick that you can then use to build around Drake, either with receiver or offensive line or whatever. Um, the Gerard Mayo thing, did you see his comments after the game about once they step between the white lines, I can't help
I can't
them,
really do
like
anything. Yes, I saw
yeah,
that.
it's like, I mean, I
I
don't
think that
disagree with them, but like you don't say that out loud. You know what I mean? Like,
hey, I've done all I can do.
yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying they should fire the guy, but I'm not going to be
Yeah,
surprised either.
I'm a little disappointed. I'm a little disappointed with him. I actually had a little bit better of expectations coming in, and he's continued to just like, hey
Like
man, maybe don't say that.
that's something that if Belichick had said it, nobody would have batted an eye. That it was like, oh, that Belichick, that crazy guy. But
That
Belichick
also helps when
earned
you
that,
won you won 6 Super Bowls.
right?
That might help you.
Yeah, but yeah, that's so. Yeah, I want to keep an eye on the Patriots there, see what's gonna happen with them. But like I said, they're moving in the right direction. Dolphins swimming with the current, like the tuna.
Hmm?
Swimming.
The tuna swimming with against the turn, or no, the
No,
salmon swimming.
salmon.
Salmon
I looked this clip. I looked this clip up. Like I
tuna
was
swim
writing.
with the current. Salmon swim against it.
Right. Yeah, I specifically looked this clip up just for this reason. Anyway, moving on here. We're having too much fun. Michael Clayton, not the movie Michael
Not the
Clayton.
movie.
The former LSU receiver, presents Buccaneers 30, Giants 7. This again falls into the category of for Tampa, good for you. You took care of business.
Yep.
The Giants, like you you stink, man. Like it's bad.
Malik never seems very happy with the entire
Yeah.
situation.
He
He apparently did not seem to have anything against Daniel Jones because he said it was the same thing when we had DJ as the quarterback.
I believe his exact quote was something like, "It ain't the quarterback, man."
Daniel Jones was not the issue here. I'm not getting the ball until we're down 30-0. That seems like everything's going splendidly.
I will say, to kind of speak to the opposite of Mayo, we talked about with the Patriots. Dayball at least seems to be handling this somewhat well. Like he's saying the right things, like, we'll keep our discussions in house and all that stuff. But
I think it seemed like Dayball was actually not part of the discussion on whether or not to let go of Jones in the first place.
yeah,
It seemed which does not speak well to the processes in place in New York. Which big shocker that's actually the case. Props to the Bucks for just taking care of business. And we'll get to this later, but I was actually surprised to see that the Giants are not favored this week.
Oh,
that's how bad the situation is right now. Is the Giants are not favored, given who they are facing on Thanksgiving.
We'll discuss that real quick. Can we? I meant to bring this up earlier. To talk about the other New York team, the Jets? Did you hear the story of how Joe Douglas was fired?
I did not.
Okay, so apparently, and I don't remember where this came from, but I read it. I read it on the internet, so it has to be true. But apparently, they were at practice. Woody Johnson arrived at practice via his helicopter,
As one
because
does.
as one does. Um, it would be funny if like he just landed the helicopter they're in the middle of
In the middle
practice
of
and
the practice field.
and all of a sudden it's like the helicopter's just descending.
This
It's
sounds like
like
a Jerry Jones move. I'm gonna be honest. It sounds like a Jerry Jones
yeah,
move.
for sure. But anyway, so apparently, as Woody's helicopter is descending, Joe Douglas is there, and he's standing next to Ulbrich, the interim coach. And apparently, Douglas looks up, sees the helicopter, turns to Ulbrich, and says, "If this goes poorly for me, it's been an honor to serve with you," or something like that, something to that effect. And Woody Johnson gets off the helicopter, calls Joe Douglas over, and fires him like that, and that's how it happened. So Joe Douglas's last words to Ulbrich were something along the lines of, "It's been an honor to serve with you." So shout out to but that reminded me of a story where the previous company I worked at was the first corporate job I ever had. So I wasn't used to like how corporate dealings worked. And one day, um, we're in our office, and one of my coworkers gets a call at her desk, and I hear her say, "Okay, yeah, I'll be right up." And she hangs the phone up, and she goes, "Huh, that's weird. My our boss just asked me to come up to this room," and she's like, kind of makes me nervous. And sure enough, like 10 minutes later, my coworker is storming back into the office with my boss right behind her. Uh, and she starts cleaning out her desk, and she had been let go. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. So anyway, sorry, I meant
She did. She didn't. She hadn't been seeing the cleaning lady, had she?
no, and she had not been using the private bathroom of the CEO or anything like that either.
Hmm. Well, that makes me very highly suspicious of this place.
Right.
They'll just fire people for anything. They fire
Yeah, I know.
they fire people like it's a bodily function. It's because she didn't bring the paisanos in.
Yeah, she didn't bring. Yeah, she forgot the calzone that day. All right, that's enough of that. Let's move on to the late window. Start with Bill Romanowski.
The late window was pretty rough. I feel like I kept flipping.
I think
I had the NFL. So YouTube TV had the NFL Sunday Ticket preview, like a free sampling, basically.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Flipping back and forth between the games, and I was like, none of this is good. What this is not a good preview for your product right here.
I think we talked about it last week. I was like, I felt like this week would either be weird, like it was in the early window, or just some rough games, which is what the late window was. The first of such games was Bill Romanowski presents Broncos 29, Raiders 19. So the Raiders in this game lose Gardner Minshew for the season. He has a broken collarbone, so Minshew mania is not going to run wild for the rest of the season. And in comes former Atlanta Falcon legend Desmond Ridder. I had plus 5.5. The Raiders proceed to get down to, I believe, the 2 or 3 yard line with very little time left, and they don't score at all. Field goal, nothing. And so
I think the problem here is you expected the Raiders to actually bail you out in this situation and do something positive.
Yeah, I know. Well, this was more honestly when I took the points with the Raiders, it was more of me like I really truly didn't believe in the Broncos yet. I was kind of like, I don't know about this. But
You saw what they did to the Saints, Paul.
That's true. Oh, I saw it. I saw it. Yeah. But anyway, but look, in all seriousness, Bo Nix, I really think he needs to be in the Offensive Rookie of the Year discussion. I'm not saying he's going to win it, but he is he is kind of the more advanced version of like Will Levis. Like he is really truly every week to week you kind of watch Bo Nix play and you're like, oh yeah, he's good. He's a very efficient with the ball. Him and Cortland Sutton look like they have a good chemistry with each other.
Well, it seems like he's sort of like improved week to week. It's one of those things like he started out and it was rough, and like maybe some of the weeks he hasn't like necessarily played the best defenses, but like he's slowly sort of like cut down on bad plays, cut down on the bad decision making, been able to make his reads more or play more efficiently in the offense, and that's sort of like what's been able to allow Denver to like they can lean on their defense, and I think a lot of that helps that the fact that he's not asked to sort of bail out the rest of the team, like he's not asked to carry the team, like Jaden Daniels. A lot of the fact that he's going to be the driver of the engine, like the defense is going to be successful because the offense is putting up points, and then the defense is put in advantageous situations. With Bo Nix, they have a very strong defense to begin with. And then he's basically like, okay, I don't need to go out and win the game. I just need to be efficient. I need to make the right decisions. I need to not make mistakes, and we'll have a chance to win, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. For the Raiders, yeah, it's not good. They're kind of in the same group as the Giants. I mean, they're it's
well,
and like it, and I mean the thing is,
I was going to say it's even worse than with the Giants because like the Giants at least have someone who I would count as an efficient or someone who I would think is an effective offensive coordinator. With Antonio Pierce, it's like, what do you do here, man? You were hired here because the players liked you. Now you make inefficient decisions. Like what's your job in this situation?
And it's really a shame because I mean they have like Max Crosby is a legitimate like
superstar,
good player. Obviously on offense they traded Devontae Adams away. Josh Jacobs, they let Josh Jacobs walk to Green Bay, and so yeah, it's gonna get worse before it gets better for the Raiders. Now, apparently, Aiden O'Connell is coming back for Friday's game. Otherwise, that'll
fix it.
Yeah, that'll fix it. What? I mean, it can't hurt, right? Can't make it worse. You want to take the next one there?
All right. Mark Roman presents Packers 38, 49ers 10. I don't know. Like the backup situation with the 49ers is not ideal, but like even in spite of that, like what are we doing here? Like I have McCaffrey on my fantasy team, and he does not look like the same version of the same player that we got for the past 2 to 3 seasons with the Niners. Like,
so
what is fixing this team?
I gave up on this game pretty early, but now that I'm kind of thinking about it, like, okay, so if Brandon Allen has to start this game, like, why are you not just running the ball a bunch? I mean, I realize they were down early. It was like 10-0 pretty quickly, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it got out of hand very fast.
Yeah, so I don't. But yeah, I mean, don't be afraid to, you have Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason. I know Trent Williams wasn't playing either, I don't think.
Right.
But what I will say about the Packers, I still kind of like the Vikings. Like I don't totally trust them. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like Jordan Love's propensity to cosplay.
Every now and then he will just like
or
Will Levis.
Or Will Levis, yeah. But I just don't like if they were, and I don't think they're going to do this, but like if it ended up where like they kind of fell apart here down the stretch and like barely missed the playoffs, it wouldn't surprise me. But I just think LaFleur is too good of a coach for that. I think he's like they're gonna get in and they'll probably end up being the 6th seed and they'll end up playing whoever wins the maybe the NFC, either the South or the West at this point. And maybe they get a win and maybe they end up in the Final Four of the NFC and that wouldn't surprise me either.
The Packers are one of those teams where like there's a very big difference between the floor and the ceiling. Like the floor feels very low because like if the defense falls apart, Jordan Love turns into a turnover machine. Like you can see that happening, but you could also see him throwing 4 touchdowns and being completely efficient on 30 passing attempts, and the running game eating up chunks of yards, right?
Well, that's the thing. Josh Jacobs has been a good pickup for them for sure. I was almost going to say maybe they should be in the Danny Dimes sweepstakes, but they have Malik Willis, and Malik Willis has shown this season that he can step in and play efficient football. So
yeah, he can do whatever's asked of him. In LaFleur is able to find answers within the system for him. You don't need to like bring in an outside solution to that, right?
Yeah. So they're an interesting team to keep your eye on. I wouldn't make any like big future bets on them.
Right.
I mean, again, they're not going to catch the Lions. I don't think they're not. I don't see them as a viable threat. If they do get into the Final Four in the NFC and they have to end up playing either the Lions or the Eagles at this point, I don't see them being, picking up a win there. So, but hey, you play who you play, and you get your wins, and you keep going. So,
All right, moving on to the last game of the late slate. This is Jason Babin presents Seahawks 16, Cardinals 6. The Seahawks defense feels like it's finally like really hit its stride, right? Like I think they were missing some pieces during the middle of the season, but they were able to shut down a Cardinals offense that was moving the ball efficiently kind of coming into this week. And you took the Seahawks. I had the Cardinals in this. You were originally saying we were both talking about why are the Seahawks laying points in this, but
one of the funnier moments on this show is when I last week said, "Why are the Seahawks laying 1.5?" And then I realized, oh wait, I picked the Seahawks.
I laid the points with the Seahawks.
Right. So no, to speak to the injuries, I know they were missing most, if not all, of their starting defensive line at one point. And obviously this is not the Legion of Boom secondary, but yeah, look, I mean, McDonald, their head coach, is a defensive guy. He comes from Baltimore, and we see what Baltimore's defense is now without him and without Anthony Weaver, who's the defensive coordinator with the Dolphins now. But yeah, I think the Seahawks, this is another like interesting one. Like, if Geno continues to play well down the stretch, they have their running game. They have Zach Charbonnet. They have Kenneth Walker. They have some. I can't remember who they were. Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's a very very talented receiver. So they can maybe. I wouldn't be surprised if they at this point. Honestly, either any of the 4 teams in that division, I could see winning the division. So.
Yeah, the NFC West, NFC West is kind of a mess, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. But like I said, I really was ready to crown the Cardinals up until this game, and then Yeah, I was really impressed by what the Seahawks were able to put together here. So
All right, let's move on to the Sunday night game. Eagles 37, Rams 20, presented by Herm Edwards. You play to win the game. You asked me, do I believe in the Eagles yet? I will never believe in the Eagles, Paul. I refuse to believe ever that they are a good team. I will say the Rams' offensive line is bad, and I think the Eagles have the defensive line to exploit that. And then a part of this is like the Eagles are going to be one of those teams that are matchup and game script dependent. When they're able to just lean into their run offense, they're able to play in sort of neutral great game scripts where they're able to hand the ball off. They're able to build the offense around Saquon and throwing go balls to A.J. Brown. That's when they're going to be efficient. I don't know if they'll be able to do that against the top tier teams. Like you saw that once this game was close, and then it was basically Saquon had a big run, and then once that happened, they were ahead. They're able to play with a lead, and that's what this Eagles team is like. I think this also mirrors kind of what the Cowboys were for the past couple of seasons. Is like when they're able to play from ahead, the defense is able to kind of lean into the pass rush and beat up on teams that where they're able to sort of impose their will. They're going to be able to make this look like routes, and they're going to be able to look like they're going to be able to kill teams where they play in optimal situations when they're tasked with beating teams that they're not able to like bend into those situations, or when Jalen Hurts has to put the game on his back. That's going to be a problem for them. So that's where I am with this team is like, okay, they're probably going to be able to beat up on most teams in situations. But in the long term, like the ceiling is, I don't know if they're able to beat up on teams with the highest caliber because the quarterback position for them is always going to be an issue.
Yeah. So I actually watched a good bit of this game. Because like I said, I was up watching the concert too. And when Saquon had that run first play of the second half, to your point, it kind of felt like, okay, that's the backbreaker, right? That's the one. Because the Rams were kind of hanging around. And then also too, didn't help. One of their drives with the Rams, that is, got stalled or got derailed by a Kyron Williams fumble, and I mean the Rams defense definitely their secondary was definitely tested. Or I'm sorry, the Eagles secondary was definitely tested with Puka and with Kupp, but all in all, the Eagles are just finding ways to win, and they're winning. I will say, if and when they do get in the playoffs, we talked about the Packers a minute ago. If you remember that first game, Packers Eagles, that's when Love got hurt. So like if Love stays healthy that whole game, maybe that's a different.
I will say he only got hurt on like the last play, but part of that
that's
game,
true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, part of that game I think was like the fact that it was played on a field where nobody could get any sort of traction, and so like basically like the offensive players had a distinct advantage. Like Jair Alexander was sliding all over the place, and so AJ Brown was basically running roughshod over. Like basically, it's like there's no way to stop AJ Brown because you can't cut as a defender on this incredibly bad turf. So I think a matchup in that situation where it's like we have a non-compromised field would be interesting there.
Yeah,
I think that would be a kind of a fun rematch to get to see in like the wild card round.
Yeah, and what I'll just say just to wrap this up is I don't think any team's going to be fearful of going into Philadelphia in the playoffs.
Right.
Any of these teams. I mean, even if Detroit were to slip up, let's say, and Philly somehow ends up with the 1 seed, like none of these teams are going to be uh, that fearful of heading into Philly and playing against Philly. Uh, but I, I look forward to some of these potential matchups that they might see in the playoffs. All right, let's wrap up Week 12 here with the Monday night game. The late great Jacoby Jones presents
R.I.P.
Ravens 30, Chargers 23 in the Har Bowl. So brother John goes up 3-0 in the career series against Jim.
Mm-hmm.
I watched a little bit of this game, dozed off, but did a Newman at some
I,
point. But like,
I don't think you missed much because I
yeah,
turned this game on and then it felt like the Chargers couldn't get a stop, and I was like, okay, Chargers aren't going to be able to like. I expected them to be able to like kind of hang with them just based solely on the fact that Baltimore's pass defense hasn't been particularly great. I think that ended up being. I think they didn't have enough weapons to kind of do what some of the more elite teams have done against Baltimore's pass defense. And so I was like, okay, they're clearly not able to hang with this team. Defensively, they're not able to get the stops that they need. And so I was like, okay, I'll turn this off. And I think I ended up being vindicated going to bed a little early there.
yeah. What I asked this with caution. Would you maybe put the Ravens and the Eagles kind of in the same category of like they they're really good when they're playing from ahead, like
Mm-hmm.
once you get, I mean, if you can just let Derrick Henry run and kill some clock, and then Justice Hill had a big play there at the end of the game. Baltimore's defense showing a little signs of life. Like you mentioned, now you mentioned the Chargers' kind of limitations on offense too. But over the last couple weeks, Baltimore. I mean, look, they're not the 2000 Ravens. I'm not saying that, but
Mm-hmm.
like, I think they're gonna if where we're getting to the point of the season where it's who's building momentum, right? Like who's so if the Ravens can kind of build some momentum, uh, they're technically right now not the division leader because that's Pittsburgh, but I don't think I don't think either of us would be shocked if the Ravens end up winning that division. They're set up pretty well. They've already swept Cincinnati. They have a loss to Cleveland now and to Pittsburgh, but um, I think as long as Lamar plays within himself, I think the Daniel Jones potential here might be worth it only because like their backup right now is Josh Johnson, Immaculate Grid legend Josh Johnson. So I mean, look, if maybe it's worth it to just have Daniel Jones on the staff or on as a backup just to in case something does happen to Lamar. But yeah, I think I still view the Ravens as a potential. Now, look, they've had their struggles in the playoffs, so we got to see them do this in the playoffs. But
Mm-hmm.
I see no reason why they can't be a top Final Four team in the AFC, potentially AFC Championship team, especially what we talked about with the Chiefs, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they're not they're not blowing anybody's doors off. They've already beaten the Bills earlier in the year, so like they've got all the pieces, they got all the tools there. So we'll see how it shapes out.
Yeah, and I
So
think
that
I really
but
think this, like we said, this is just a sign of like the Chargers are. I mean, they have their quarterback of the future, so like that's not the part of it. But they're still trying to. It's not so much a rebuild as it is a retooling, and like this
yeah
is just kind of a sign of where they are in terms of the uh, sort of hierarchy of the AFC and the league in general. Is like, okay, you're improving. you've gotten better, you're making steps, but you're still, a step below that sort of elite class in the AFC.
No heartburn about the Chargers for the playoffs. We still think they're going to make the playoffs.
I mean, I think they've got a shot as much as anybody. Like it's going to be
they have so they're 7-4 right now.
Mm-hmm.
They have a game against the Patriots and a game against the Raiders at the end of this season. So you figure that gets you to 9, right?
Mm-hmm.
The game for them, they play the Chiefs one more time. They play the Falcons and the Bucks. But December 19th, the Thursday night game, is home for the Broncos. So that might be kind of
that'll be the real test, right?
Well, that'll at the bare minimum will be a seeding game, right? So like who's the 6 versus the 7, or potentially like who's the 7, right? So I'm interested. Yeah, I mean this is another team, that their schedule is kind of backloaded, I guess, a little bit. Not to the same degree as like the Steelers, let's say, but they kind of beat up on teams that they should have beaten up on, and now they're kind of getting into a little bit more of their the meat of their schedule here.
Right.
All right, so that'll do it for Week 12. I before we started recording, Brandon, I had to put my jacket on because I felt a draft.
You feel a draft? I feel a draft too, Paul.
I feel a draft. Let's change tables.
Get out of here. We have a booth.
Frank Costanza, God bless you. All right, so a couple weeks ago, we did the Super Bowl team draft, like teams we think can win the Super Bowl. We're gonna do we're gonna pull a George and do the complete opposite now. We're gonna do a draft of the teams we think can get the number 1 overall draft pick. We didn't discuss this before, Brandon, but we're just gonna do 4 teams each, right?
Yeah, I think that's the way to go here.
Okay, we're not gonna do 7 like we did with the.
That might be a little bit excessive.
I thought earlier, I was like, well, we could just do 8 apiece, because then that would be, like we did this. We did the 14 that can make the playoffs, and now we're going to do the 8, the 16 that won't. But no, let's stick to 4. I think. Not to be presumptuous, but I believe I won the head-to-head.
You did. You won by 1 game this week.
Yeah, so I think I will. I feel like the first pick here. I don't know. I was going to say I feel like the first pick's pretty easy. The other thing too, I'll just point out, when I was looking up the current draft order, I was getting conflicting things. The one I put in the notes is from PFN, but then the one I saw on NFL.com was a little different. So I don't know if that's. I do know, because you and I were talking about this, because the Saints and Cowboys, even though they have the same record, the Saints were picking ahead of the Cowboys, and that has to do with strength of schedule. And I saw somewhere where I think some people are doing strength of schedule based on who you've played so far, and some people are doing strength of schedule based on like looking forward, basically.
I will say that the ratings that we've got posted in the show notes right now also matches Tankathon, which I would I would consider that the Bible of draft picks.
The source of truth. Yeah, so we'll go with that then. All right, so I will go ahead with the number 1 pick here, and I'm going to take the New York Football Giants.
Oh man, I think that's the right way to go here.
Based on what we talked about earlier, they are not currently the number 1 pick. They do not currently hold the number 1 pick, but I don't think we'd be surprised if come April they are in the catbird seat, as it were.
We don't think that Tommy DeVito is going to run off a bunch of wins for this team.
I mean, I will say They do play the Saints. So the Saints have a game against the Rams at home this week, and then they go to the Meadowlands to play the Giants. It would be totally Saints of them to beat the Rams and then lose to the Giants. Like that would not surprise. Like having been a Saints fan as long as I have, would not surprise me. But I feel pretty confident with the Giants pick here. So you get 2 now.
All right. I think I'm just going to take the other 2 in the top 3 seem like the most logical right here. Especially the fact that the number 1 overall right now is the Jaguars. That can be questionable because of the fact that they play in the AFC South.
And the quarterback situation we talked about
is
earlier,
a question mark, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and take the Raiders first.
Okay.
And then I'll take the Jaguars. I'm sure we'll get to it when you take your picks, but the other team I considered here, I just think the quarterback that they have, the Patriots being the case here, I like the Drake. I think there's a little bit of chance for them to kind of make up a little bit of ground. The Raiders really seem like the obvious number 2 for me, though. And they also seem like the most obvious pick to take Shadur Sanders with their
draft pick. Yeah. If there were so when we first came up with this idea today, I tried to look up like odds for teams to get the
I was just doing that, and there's nothing. It's more of who is going to be drafted number 1,
right? And so and I guess we should. I guess I should have teed this up too, but like these 3 teams. So I think if the Giants have the number 1 pick, they're going quarterback. Raiders have the number 1 pick, they're definitely going quarterback. And you just alluded to who they're probably going to pick. If the Jaguars have the number 1 pick, and I will say this with the Jaguars, we talked about if Trevor Lawrence does play the rest of this year, that could sway things. Mm-hmm. The other thing to point out, all 3 of these teams feel like they maybe have quit on their coach a little bit. And the Jaguars fall in that category. So even if Trevor Lawrence does play, like if they've quit on Peterson, then
we talked about this last week too. Is like the Peterson was supposedly on the hot seat going into the Lions game, like whether or not that was a wise decision.
Well, look, and we'll see. Like if Lawrence plays this week against the Texans and they beat the Texans, then definitely Peterson. You can't fire Peterson at that point,
right?
Or maybe you can. I don't know, but like, I think if the Jaguars do end up as a top pick, I definitely think they would be a candidate to trade back, unless they just fall in love with like Travis Hunter, which, I don't
possible.
See why you wouldn't, but yeah, I think these first 3 are definitely prime candidates. Okay, so as we discovered last week when we did our Hall of Fame draft, I like to go off the beaten path a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
So you know who my number 2 pick's going to be? The other New York team.
I was going to say the Jets.
Jets, Jets. Look, talked about. Like the whole this whole thing has gone from absurd to like really absurd because now they're at the point.
Talk about how the Bless Dem Boyz curse is really hitting the Jets, because the last time the Jets actually had a positive outlook was when we watched the game together.
That's true.
Yeah. On Thursday night, the Jets and the Patriots, the Jets were routing the Patriots.
Yeah.
We had fans screaming.
Yeah.
And after that, it was all downhill from there.
So our apologies to the Jets. Yeah. But now they're like Rodgers is like apparently doesn't want to get scans because he's afraid that they're going to bench him. He's talking about coming back next year, and he wants to come back to the Jets, but the Jets may not want him to come back. The Jets right now, let me just for yucks here, let me just pull up they're coming off a bye. They host the Seahawks this week, so that's not easy. Then they go to the Dolphins. They go to the Jaguars. Hey, there you go. So there's your matchup for the number one pick, maybe. They host the Rams. They go to the Bills, and then they host the Dolphins. And that Dolphins game at the end of the year, the Dolphins might need it. So, yeah, I mean they're 3-8 right now. They maybe win one more game, maybe.
That sounds about right.
So, and then the Giants right now are what 3-8 also, or 2-9. Giants
are currently 2-9.
2-9.
Mm-hmm.
2-9.
We
they
got
have
9 teams: Jacksonville, New York, and Las Vegas.
That's okay. And the Giants have Cowboys, Saints, Ravens, Falcons, Colts, and Eagles. Yeah, it's tough being a New York football fan right now. So shout out to them.
Well, at least their baseball team made the World Series.
I was gonna say maybe the Yankees will sign Soto and they'll be all right. All right. So for my next pick, so I've got the two New York teams. I guess I'll go with the Patriots. Even though we here at Bless Them Boys love the Drake.
We do love the Drake.
I mean, this is more just, I honestly, like, for the Patriots having the number one pick, if assuming the Drake continues to improve each week, but they're not winning games, number one pick, kind of like they'll be in the same position as the Jaguars. Like, if somebody makes you a offer you can't refuse for that pick, you trade back, you still probably end up with either maybe Travis Hunter, depending on how far back you go, or Luther Burden from Missouri, or Tedero McMillan, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, McMillan from Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Will Camp, like one of the offensive linemen, Will Campbell from LSU, Kelvin Banks from the Longhorns there. Like, they're in a pretty good spot. I mean, of the teams we've listed so far, the Patriots are probably in the best spot, I would say, from a future facing perspective. But yep. So you got your last two picks here.
All right, I'm going to take what is the obvious one, and that is the Panthers.
Okay.
We've talked about what they've done so far, the fact that Bryce Young's improving, but I think that there's still, there's just not enough talent around him, regardless of kind of how many steps he takes to kind of bridge what they would need to get out of there. They're currently fifth in the Tankathon standings. They're 3-8. NFC South is particularly a murderer's row. But they've still got games against the Cowboys with Cooper Rush.
True. Well, they've got the Bucks twice, including this week. Then they go to Philadelphia, come back, play the Cowboys. They do host the Cardinals also, and the Cardinals are going to need that win.
That is a Steve Berline matchup right there. Steve Berline / Ricky Pearl.
Yeah, and then their last game of the year is at Atlanta, and Atlanta might need that game too. So, yeah, I mean, I think they'll be competitive in some of these games, but
absolutely,
they're 3-8 right now. I don't see them getting any better than 5 wins, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe you steal one of these. Either you steal one of the Tampa games, maybe you luck out, beat it. Maybe Atlanta's clinched the division by week 18, and I don't know, but I think again, same thing we talked about with the Patriots. Like, as long as Bryce is looking good and progressing each week, and you're being competitive, that's really all you can ask for at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And then, again, you're going to have you're now out of the quarterback market, so now you can concentrate potentially on building around Bryce moving forward. So. Last pick for you.
All right, I'm going to go off the top 10 here. I'm going to take a team who thought has actually improved over the last couple of weeks and who we've seen a little bit of signs of life. I'm actually going to take the currently 4-7 Chicago Bears.
Okay, I thought you might do that.
Um,
Well, I said a couple weeks ago, I'm like, Bears could end up being a top 5 pick. I don't know if they'll get all the way to 1, but
I
yeah,
think the Browns are kind of in consideration here, but I think the fact that like they've still got they've got a tough NFC North schedule. The fact that they may be competitive in some of these games based on the changes that they made in the offensive system and they've improved, but like maybe if they just like continue to slide, maybe at some point they say, okay, Caleb, we've done all we can do with you for this year. Let's just kind of like maybe eventually they put him on ice and turn to Tyson
yeah.
Bagent too. So I think there's the possibility that they just continue to slide and they continue to build for the future. So I'm going to go off the top 10 list here and take the Bears.
That's a good thought.
Kind of a
Yeah,
deep cut.
I know they I know they play. So they've played the Packers, they played the Vikings, they play the Lions this week. Then they have to play those 3 teams again.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also play the 49ers, which that doesn't look as daunting now, but they play the 49ers and they play the Seahawks. Like that's their remaining schedule is so. And again, the Vikings are going to need wins. The Packers are going to need wins. The Lions, maybe not so, but the Lions still have to keep winning because the Eagles are right behind them for the
Yep.
1 seed. So like, yeah, to your point, it could go from bad to worse for the Bears pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I totally support that thought process. I'm going to go for my last pick. I hate to do this to my guy Jameis, but I'm going to go Cleveland
Yep.
with the Browns. I actually, after I picked the Patriots, I was like, oh, I probably should have picked the Browns, but they're kind of in a similar situation. They're a little more. I would say they're feisty at this point, right? Like they're not. You can't just. Well, the Steelers just saw it. Like you can't just go into
No
a
one
game
rolls
against the
into.
Browns and
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. But if you look at their schedule, they're at Denver, at Pittsburgh, home Chiefs, at Bengals, home Dolphins, at Ravens. All of those teams are in a potential playoff hunt. Like I know the Bengals have to kind of get their act together. The Bengals might be a sneaky. That would be something. Do you imagine if the Bengals end up like top 5 pick?
That is
After
Zach Taylor gets
yeah,
blown out in that
absolutely.
situation, right? Like that's the
I would think so. We talked about it last week, but like Burrow's already at 3,000 yards for the season. Chase is already at 1,000 yards receiving, and they're 4-7. And Trey Hendrickson leads the league in sacks, and they're 4-7. So I mean, like they're coming. So they got to start stacking some wins up here. We'll talk about them more a little bit maybe when we preview their game. But real quick, let's just recap here. So for my picks here, I've got the 2 New York teams, the Giants, the Jets, the Patriots, and the Browns. And you are rolling with the Raiders, the Jaguars, the Panthers, and the Bears.
I took 1 pirate and 3 animals.
Yeah, that's the 2 what year was it? 96 expansion?
Yeah, 96
teams?
the expansion teams.
Yeah.
That moved it to 31 at that point, right? Because that was pre-Texans. The Texans were the team that made it to 32.
That sounds like a thing, yeah.
Because it was 20. It was always an odd number because the AFC, I want to say it was like the AFC Central had 6 teams because we had 3 divisions in each conference. We had the AFC, it was East, Central, West, NFC East, Central, West, and then the AFC Central had the Steelers, the Titans, the Ravens, the Bengals, Browns. Like they had 6 teams, and then every other division had 5. That was our
I'm
one.
looking. I'm looking now here. So in '96, which would have been the first year of the Panthers. The Panthers went 12-4 their first year. Wow. Totally forgot about that.
Pretty good for an expansion team.
Then the Jaguars went 9-7. That's right. The Jaguars made the AFC Championship
game in their inaugural season.
Mark Brunell, Saints legend, Mark Brunell. Yeah, the Panthers made the NFC Championship game that year.
Oh yeah, that's right. Like the both of them, because I think the Cowboys got knocked out that year by the Panthers in the playoffs.
Cowboys got knocked out by the
Panthers.
By the Panthers. Yeah, you're right. Yep. But yeah, so let's see. The NFC, what are we at? The AFC West or the AFC Central, excuse me, had 5 teams. AFC West had 5 teams. AFC East had 5 teams.
I thought the AFC Central had 6 teams for some reason.
No, looks like they were at 30. Because did the Browns? Yeah, the Browns didn't exist. That's what happened. Because
that was pre-Browns.
Browns moved to Cleveland. Browns moved to Cleveland or moved to Baltimore, and they hadn't been reestablished yet. Gotcha. I want to say, but let me move forward here. So in '99, the Browns came back. That's when the AFC Central had 6 teams.
Gotcha. So who is do you know who the fifth? So the NFC East was the current 4 teams. Do you know who the fifth NFC East team was?
Yeah, I'm cheating. I'm looking at it right now.
It was
the Cardinals, but I think I knew. Yeah, I remember the Cardinals. I remember that anomaly of like, why is the Arizona Cardinals in the NFC East? Like
they were the current 4 NFC East teams plus the Cardinals were the ones that like we always played twice a season.
Well,
generally in the early 90s ended up tending to beat.
Yeah. And along those same lines, in the NFC Central was Tampa Bay.
Right.
And the NFC West was Atlanta and Carolina and the Saints. So, yeah.
Yeah, the NFC West and Central were kind of odd compared to what we think of today as like those 2 divisions. The South and the North.
Yeah, just to put a bow on this, 2002 is when they went to the current 4 divisions.
That's when the Texans
8 division. Texans came in. They moved everybody around to make it more geographically logical.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, moving on here. Week 13, lucky number 13. We only have, what was that, 5? We got 6 weeks left.
Including this week, we have 16, right?
Including this week, we have 6 weeks left, yeah. Okay, this week, nobody on a bye because it's Thanksgiving. Everybody's got to work. So, speaking of which, Thanksgiving Day, we have 3 games. We also have a Black Friday game to talk about this week, so that's exciting.
A Black and Silver Friday game.
A Black and Silver Friday game, yeah, thank you. Let's start early on Turkey Day. Al-Qadim Muhammad, Saints legend Al-Qadim Muhammad. You know what his claim to fame is? He was a member of the vaunted 2017 Saints draft class that included Marshawn Lattimore, Alvin Kamara, Trey Hendrickson, I think, was in that draft too.
He was one of the less successful members of that draft class.
But for what it's worth, he's still in the NFL. He's still playing. So when I looked him up for this, I noticed I think he's on. I forget what team he's on, but he's still around. But anyway, he presents our opening game here: Bears at Lions. Lions are laying 11.5. So I'm taking the points, and here's why. I think the Bears are good enough not to win. Because look at what they've done the last 2 weeks, right? They lost on a last second block field goal against the Packers, right? And then last week that ridiculous game against the Vikings. And the Lions, look, I mean, they can't win them all by, double-digit points, can they? I mean,
can they?
I don't know.
They might. Yeah, I'm going to lay. I will lay the points with the Lions until they prove to me that they cannot lay the points anymore.
That's also fair. That's also a fair assessment. Yeah. So, you want to take the next one there?
Yeah, Everson Walls, Cowboys legend, Super Bowl champion, one of the Cowboys' greatest defensive backs, but won a Super Bowl with the Giants actually in the early '90s. Paul, you're taking a bold move here. The Cowboys are laying 3.5. You're actually taking the Giants minus 3.5 here.
Oh, I totally just saw that.
Here's
what happened.
One here. Yeah,
I'm doing it. Yeah, I'm going on rebet and doing an alternate line.
Yeah, so both of us, as someone who has basically like given up on taking the Cowboys in any of these games, I will also I will take Tommy DeVito in the 3.5 points. Although it may not be Tommy DeVito at this point.
No, it may be. Maybe it's a Drew Lock, Jerry.
Yeah. So did you? The Drew Lock was very upset when he was told that Tommy DeVito was the starting quarterback because he was told. He said, "I was told when I came here that I would be the number 2 quarterback," and I saw in the responses immediately were, "He's still the number 2 quarterback." You were told you were going to be the number 2 quarterback, even if Daniel Jones is cut. You're still the number 2 quarterback.
Yeah, different kind of number 2, I guess.
Yeah, that's all the Giants have at quarterback right now is a giant batch of number 2.
Just give me 1 second here. Just in case you're wondering, on Fliff, if you wanted to do Giants minus 3.5, it's plus 250.
Huh.
So, for what it's worth. Yeah, I totally didn't even realize
that is a true degenerate line. If you're taking the Giants minus 3.5, God bless. God bless.
Sitting there on Thanksgiving, you're ignoring your family because you got,
I got Giants minus 3.5 in this baby. Oh
man!
All right, the nightcap. Greg Jennings. I will say, I would have gone Al Harris in this situation. Dolphins, Packers, Cowboys coaching legend, Al Harris. But we're going with Greg Jennings presents Dolphins, Packers.
Oh, wait a minute. Is he a patron saint Cowboy? Al Harris? Because I think he played for the Saints, didn't he?
I don't think he.
While I look that up, you
look that up. So
with
the Packers are laying 3.5. I am laying the 3.5, and this is based solely on the fact that this is a night game in late November in Lambeau. I think any other situation, if it's in the day, I would probably take the Dolphins. But the fact that it's going to be nighttime in Wisconsin, in Green Bay, I'm going to take the cold weather team against the warm weather team and lay the points here.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I'm taking the points with the Dolphins. I don't know. I again, this is more me not trusting the Packers, and I do feel like the Dolphins are gaining some steam here, which they're going to need in the cold weather. But
if it makes you feel any better, I don't super trust the Packers either. This is a 100% cold weather bet.
I've got a feeling, Jerry. By the way, Al Harris, did not play for the Saints. I don't know who I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of maybe I don't know
somebody.
I'm thinking somebody. They all blend together.
They all run together at some point.
They all run together. So we're head to head on 2 games on Thanksgiving.
Yep.
I'm Bears plus 11.5. Your Lions minus 11.5. I'm Dolphins plus 3.5. Your Packers.
You're
minus
on
3.5.
You're on the dogs this Thanksgiving.
Yep. I'm taking instead of that's probably un-Thanksgiving like of me. I'm taking instead of
Thanksgiving,
giving.
you're Thanksgiving. I'm
I'm
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. There you go. All right, Black Friday, black and gold for or black and silver Friday, I should say.
Mhm.
Rich Gannon, former Super Bowl quarterback, former MVP, Rich Gannon, right?
Yep,
Didn't he win the MVP? Yeah.
I believe so.
Presents Raiders at Chiefs. Chiefs are laying 13.5. So here I'm Thanksgiving. I'm just a day late. I'm laying the 13.5 with the Chiefs. You're taking
I'm
the 13.5 with the
I'm going to take
Raiders.
that Black Friday deal. I'm going to
There you
take
go.
the points. I'm going to take the discount here, based solely on the fact that we talked about this before. The Chiefs can't seem to cover the spread right now, and so
But
as bad as the
but
Raiders are, the
but do
Raiders are
you but do you
terrible.
trust the Raiders to take that offer, like to take that you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I'm trusting in Antonio Pierce here, which great guy. Don't
God
get me
bless you.
wrong, players
God bless
coach,
you.
but
Giants. So you're trusting a Giants legend, Antonio Pierce, to
that's
lead
right.
you to lead you to glory here.
Mm. It's
Good
rough
luck with
out there in them
that.
streets right now.
All right, so moving on to Sunday, the early slate here. Michael Burner Turner presents Chargers at Falcons. Falcons are uh, getting 1.5 points. Looks like we're both taking the 1.5 points with the Falcons. I'm doing this more as like a jinx on the Falcons, but I do think the Chargers, this is going to be tough. Monday night game, short week, early window, going across country. We've seen the playbook before. Um, so it'll be really interesting to see how the Chargers respond, in this environment. The Falcons are coming off a bye also, so
And they're also
that
coming
doesn't.
off a really rough loss to the Broncos before the bye.
Yep.
I think
Yep.
this will be a good measuring stick game because the Falcons kind of had that stinker prior to the bye. Let's see how they bounce back here. How they kind of
And sorry, I don't mean to
no,
interrupt,
go
but
ahead.
and with the Buccaneers coming off their big win against the Giants and
Mhm.
only being a game back now, see how the Falcons handle that pressure. Now, again, the Falcons have beaten the Bucks twice, so they don't have to worry about that from a tiebreaker perspective. But if the Bucks get more wins than the Falcons, it won't matter. So this is definitely I would almost classify this as a must win for the Falcons at this point.
Yeah, they really need this.
So
And I wanted to point out, I forgot to mention this earlier, but uh, the Cowboys Commanders game last week, the Commanders were coming off a Thursday night game, and the Cowboys were coming off a Monday night game. They actually had the Commanders actually
that's
had
true.
a huge rest advantage. I completely forgot about this, but they had a huge rest advantage against the
And
Cowboys going into that game.
the Cowboys had to travel too,
Mm-hmm.
so it
It was a
wasn't.
road game.
Yeah.
So,
We'll see. All right. Speaking of cowboy legends, so to speak, Neil O'Donnell presents Steelers at Bengals. Bengals are laying the 2.5. Yeah, I can't quit the Bengals. I'm laying the 2.5.
I'll take this. Steelers getting points here just feels criminal. I know
Yeah,
the Bengals offense is great, but man, if I can get points with the Steelers, who I think are still a solid team right now, I'll take it.
yeah. It would be really hilarious if the Ravens have already swept the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Bengals sweep the Steelers, but then let's say the Steelers sweep the Ravens. That would just be the most AFC North thing ever.
We need the Steelers to sweep the Ravens without ever scoring a touchdown against them. Just based on
That
the
would
fact,
be
because Joe Burrow's thrown for 3,000 yards
right.
and 10 touchdowns against the Ravens and still
That
lost both games.
that would be very Steeler. Yeah, that would be very Steeler-esque. But yeah, so we're head to head again on this. So this is our what is this? Our fourth head to head so far.
1, 2, 3, 4 games.
All right. So I think we're head to head on this next one. You want to take it?
Yep. Jim McMahon, Bears Super Bowl legends presents. You know what we should have done here is, I know it's technically not an immaculate grid match, but this is
Okay.
the Danny Green match.
Oh yeah,
The
yeah.
Danny Green
of course,
matchup.
yeah. You know what? I actually thought about this. I thought one week we should do
All
coaches. Yeah, just do all coaches if we can swing it.
Yeah,
So,
it might be
let's,
difficult.
let's
But Jim McMahon / Denny Green presents Cardinals versus Vikings. Vikings at home laying 3.5. You're taking the points with the Cardinals. I will be laying the points with the Vikings.
Yeah, this is another one where I just expect the Cardinals to come out kind of, I don't say hair on fire, but like I feel like they kind of just they need to they need this win to kind of keep pace. And the Vikings, again, I mentioned earlier, I don't totally trust them. I do think Flores' defense is going to give Kyler some fits.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe your cousin can take some of that pressure off of Kyler, and we'll see. I mean, I don't think the Cardinals. We saw. So I don't think the traveling east thing for the Cardinals has been that big of a detriment this season. I know they played at Green Bay earlier this year. But yeah, I don't know.
I think for me, this is more a bet on the Vikings from a structural standpoint of the defense is solid, and I trust O'Connell against the Cardinals defense that is shown more than we expected going into the season, but probably is not quite up to the level of something that we.
Yeah, this could end up being, and we didn't point this out when we talked about the Bears game, but like Jordan Addison coming off a really good showing against the Bears, he's probably going to get, maybe he might see some more touches. Obviously, Justin Jefferson, and Aaron Jones had a big game. So yeah, I'll probably regret this pick, but I'll stick with it. So I'll go Cardinals plus 3.5 there. Moving on to Jason Babin, Immaculate Grid legend here. He presents the Texans at the Jaguars. Jaguars are getting 4.5 points. I think we both maybe toyed with taking the Jaguars here, but we both end up laying the points with the Texans. So
yeah, I think the quarterback situation is probably just too much. Like, if as much as we're still skeptical a little bit on Trevor Lawrence, him being here is a big difference. Like, if he's there, I would probably take the Jaguars plus the points. But
so let me ask you this: if Sunday morning we wake up and it's announced that Trevor Lawrence is starting, would you flip this pick?
absolutely, I would.
Okay, I may too. So we'll kind of hedge this on
Who the
if it's
starting
Mac
quarterback
Jones,
is.
if it's Mac Jones, and you mentioned the Texans defense earlier. Quietly, I think the Texans defense is like a top 10 unit in the NFL. I think that gets overshown or not doesn't get as much credit. Overshadowed, thank you, by the fact that Stroud, with the struggles that Stroud has had.
Yeah, they've got like a couple of edge players in Will Anderson. They've got Danielle Hunter. Don't call me Danielle Hunter.
Yeah.
They've got Jalen Petrie. They've got Derek Stingley Jr.
Yep.
Yeah, so they've got some good guys. I think part of what happened against the Titans too is like one of their safeties went out, and they were forced to kind of play their backup safety, and that kind of led to some of the like coverage busts that they had.
Yep.
But yeah, the defense has been solid, but they had some struggles against the Titans that kind of led to that. Will Levis being able to beat them for what we'll continue to call the Blessed Dem Boyz special.
Yep. All right. Up next, Adam Vinatieri, Super Bowl legend, potential future Hall of Famer. Adam Vinatieri presents Colts at Patriots. Patriots are getting 2.5. We are both taking that 2.5. This is a potential upset special of the week. I would say, and I don't know if it'd be that big of an upset, honestly. The way both these teams have been playing. Again, for the Colts, you just kind of hope you see some development from Richardson. The Patriots defense is not outside of Christian Gonzalez, I would say the Patriots defense is not necessarily stout, but we'll see. We'll see what they can do, and obviously excited to see what the Drake does as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we're both betting on the Drake here, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's definitely. We're betting on him continuing his level of play, and then maybe they just catch a break here or there.
Mm-hmm. All right, next, Leon Washington presents Seahawks versus Jets. Jets at home getting 2.5. We are both on the visiting team laying the points with the Seahawks. I guess we're both kind of agreeing that the Seahawks, based on what they've shown us lately, have figured something out, and the Jets are just too much of a dumpster fire to really do much of anything.
Yeah, this is definitely for the Seahawks, right place, right time type thing. And for the Jets, wrong place, wrong time. We talked about the Seahawks defense coming on.
I think the Jets' entire season has been wrong place, wrong time.
Well, fair enough, but yeah, I think and again, if you're the Seahawks, you're in a tight division race. The Cardinals have a game that's very losable. We'll talk about the Rams here in a little bit, and then the 49ers also. So if you can pick up a win here that you should, this is really a game that the Seahawks should win. This line, 2.5 is being very generous, I think, to the Jets.
I think so too,
in my opinion. So this is definitely a game for the Seahawks. Handle your business, get the win. I know it's an early window. I know it's cross country, but just take care of business and move on. You want to take the last one here?
Yeah, we're gonna take Brian. We're gonna pay homage to Tony Kornheiser by calling him Brian No Sackpo. Titans Commanders, also UT legend Brian.
Well, that's why I let you take this one. And then
yeah, Brian Orakpo, who Tony Kornheiser called Brian No Sackpo. Titans Commanders at home laying 5.5. We are both taking the Titans. The one of my favorite Brian Orakpo memories was when he was with the Washington football team prior to them being called the Washington football team. There was a game where they were getting roasted on defense. They couldn't stop anything, and he was mic'd up for the game.
Okay.
They cut to him, and he's heaving out of breath, and he goes, "Come on, man! What are you even doing out there, man?" And so they'll use that clip every now and then. They'll say, "Come on, man! What are we even doing out there, man?" We'll have to put that in the show at some point. But this is my overriding memory of Brian Orakpo is the fact that he was like just getting roasted out there, and is like, "What are we even doing out there?"
Well, next week when my Cardinals plus 3.5 looks really bad, just play that clip.
There we go.
No. For the Titans, again, these are two teams kind of heading in opposite directions potentially.
So, and we expect the Titans defense to continue to be able to stifle Daniels, who's kind of been on a kind of slowed down after his historic start with the.
I would say so. Yep. I with my full chest, I earlier said, like, Titans Texans Week 18 could matter, but it starts here. So
Yep.
let's go. All right. Well, now let's go to the late slate. Rare opportunity for my guys here. Eddie Kennison, Immaculate Grid legend Eddie Kennison,
This is the
LSU legend.
Paul Elliott special right here, Eddie Kennison.
Rams at Saints in the late window. I believe this is the only 3:00 window game for the Saints all season. Saints are getting 2.5. I, in the tradition, am laying the points with the Rams. You're taking the points with the Saints.
I expect the Saints will get a generous pass interference call in their favor against this team, as they are known to do.
Don't even. We were doing so well. So first I give you the Iraq-Bo thing, and then you go, and now you're bringing this up. Now what I'll say about this is I think this game will determine how the rest of the season kind of plays out for the Saints. If they the Rams are coming off a bad loss on national TV, so you got to think they're going to be primed to get some get back. Saints are coming off a bye, feeling pretty good, 2 wins in a row. I have to say, for Darren Rizzi, every time I hear him speak, the more comfortable I get with the fact that he may end up being our head coach next year. He definitely has a much better energy to him than Dennis Allen ever had. I'm not saying that he will be the coach next year, but
pretty low bar to clear there, though, right?
Fair enough, but I mean, what do you expect from a Dennis Allen and A&M alum? But that was for you. But
that's what I like to hear. Let's shade that way.
But look, I think the Saints have a puncher's chance here against the Rams. Again, what I'm looking for is competitive. Can they be competitive? This is going to be in it's not a prime time window, but I mean, with the slate, there's only 3 games going on. So, you might get some eyeballs watching you here, but we'll see what happens. I'll be there. I'll be watching. So we'll see. Another game I'll be watching. Randall Cunningham presents Eagles at Ravens. Probably the game of the week, I would say. Ravens laying the 2.5. We're both taking the Eagles plus 2.5 for jinx purposes, I assume.
That's right. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel a lot better if the Ravens just absolutely demolish this team. That would be fantastic. Derrick Henry, we didn't pay you in the offseason, but you can do us a favor.
Right.
By just running roughshod over this Eagles defense, improving that they are absolutely frauds, as I've continued to perpetuate on this.
What's the when's the last time like 2 running backs having the types of seasons that Barkley and Henry are having have faced off against each other? Like,
that's a good question.
Like, but you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to think of like when Kamara for the Saints was having one of his breakout years. Like if the Saints played, I don't know. It's like somebody like I'm trying to think who would have been a good running back in those days. Like I don't know, but this is a really because normally you look at matchups and you look at the quarterbacks, right? You look at Mahomes versus Allen, those kind of things. Like this is a rare one where it's like, oh, it's Barkley versus Henry, and this could be a situation where one of these guys goes nuclear in the game and they kind of vault themselves in the MVP discussion potentially. So who knows? It'll be a good game. Be interesting to see. For your sake, I hope the Eagles lose. But yeah,
I hope it's a loss and I hope it's a blowout.
There you go. All right, last game on the late window here. Keyshawn Johnson, former number one overall pick. Keyshawn Johnson.
Former Cowboys legend.
Yes, that's true. Former Cowboys legend Keyshawn Johnson presents Buccaneers at Panthers. Panthers are getting 5.5. You and I are both going to take that 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of I would tread lightly if I'm the Buccaneers here. They're coming off a big win against the Giants. That was after their bye. Panthers are playing better.
They're starting the Buccaneers are kind of starting to get some of their weapons back. They're not going to get Godwin back this year, but they got
true.
Evans back last week.
Yep.
It seems like they're a little bit healthier.
We talked about Barkley and Henry, but like the Buccaneers two-headed running back tandem of Rashad White and Bucky Irving are proven to be formidable.
Yeah, as a fantasy owner of Rashad White, I am thankful that he is also part of that backfield.
Right. Hey, remember Sean Tucker who like ran all over the Saints that one week?
I remember that. He had one good game.
Well, he scored a touchdown last week. That's what made me think about it. Because he scored that touchdown. I was like, oh yeah.
That guy.
That guy. Good for him. All right, moving on.
Another Saints legend.
Saints running back legend.
Yep. 49ers versus Bills. Bills at home, laying 6.5. All right, this is my I can't quit you moment again. I actually picked against the Jets this week. Big for me. But this one I'm still continuing to lean into the 49ers. I'm going to take the 49ers plus 6.5. They're going to get right eventually, right, Paul?
Sure.
You don't think so because you are head-to-head against me in this one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think this is more me saying I'm not going to pick the Niners until they give me a reason to. And like the Bills are coming off a bye, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bills are coming off a bye. It's at home. Looks like it's going to be a snow game. Saw that today. So yeah, and I just trust. And here's the funny thing: like if you look at these two teams, their rosters, right? I mean, I know the 49ers have injuries and all that, but like, it feels like the Bills are doing way more with less, right? Like their best receiver right now is Shakir because Keon Coleman's hurt. Cooper's
still like he has not quite been what they wanted when they traded for him.
Right. And Josh Allen, look, they're coming off that Chiefs game where Allen had his MVP kind of moment. This is another opportunity for him to kind of show out on a national window. So yeah, I just look for them to take care of business here. And you did say this was presented by Reggie Bush, right?
I know. Yes, because we talked about Saints running back legend.
Right. Okay. All right, moving on. Last game of the week here, Monday night, presented by former Madden cover artist Peyton Hillis, another running back legend. Browns at Broncos. Broncos are laying 5.5, and we're head to head on this one. I'm taking the Brown. I'm sticking with the Jameis magic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking the 5.5. This is a situation again, and I should have learned my lesson last week because I picked against the Broncos thinking they would kind of have a letdown game. That's kind of what I'm thinking here. But, I mean, at least the Browns showed signs of life last week as opposed to the Raiders. So maybe, I don't know, maybe this is actually kind of a semi-Jameis revenge game if you think about it because Sean Payton had Jameis on the team with the Saints in 21.
It's more of a coaching revenge game.
Yeah,
team revenge game. Yeah, correct.
And to be fair, that was the year Jameis tore his ACL.
It's not like Sean Payton
games in the season. No, that was actually Devin White. So thanks, Devin White, for that. Appreciate you. That's how we ended up with Ian Book starting at quarterback at one point that season because we had to go to Trevor Siemian, and then everybody got COVID, and Ian Book was our starter for a Monday night game against the Dolphins. that was a fun one.
That's not going to be good for business.
It's not going to be good for anybody. Hey, real quick before we move on to the locks and upsets, we have some playoff scenarios to talk about.
All right,
Some
let's get
playoff
into it.
clinching. So let me. I'll try to make this quick. So there's 3 teams, 2 in the AFC, 1 in the NFC, that can clinch a playoff spot, and in the case of the Bills, can clinch the division. So for the Bills, if the Dolphins lose Thanksgiving night against the Packers, and then the Bills beat the 49ers on Sunday night, the Bills clinch the AFC East. Not a playoff spot, the division. And I think, if I remember a couple weeks ago, I said, man, Buffalo might clinch the division by Thanksgiving. Well, there'll be a
few days
days late. But that's this. So they can't clinch a playoff spot, Buffalo, because I think there's still a chance that, like, if they lose these games, then Denver or the Chargers could surpass them, I guess. But anyway, Buffalo win and a Miami loss. Buffalo clinches the AFC East. Now, moving on to the Chiefs. The Chiefs cannot clinch their division yet, but they can clinch a playoff berth if they beat the Raiders on Black Friday and one of the following happens. They either get a Miami loss. So if Miami loses against Green Bay, that sets up 2 clinching scenarios. Buffalo that we just talked about, and then also could set up Kansas City to clinch a playoff spot. Kansas City can also clinch a playoff spot with a win and either a Denver loss or a Chargers loss and a Denver tie. So basically, yeah, that's Kansas City. There's also some tie. I don't want to go into all the
don't worry about ties.
Yeah, I'm not going to worry about ties.
This is me. This is me in a normal situation. Don't worry about the tie.
right. And then finally, in the NFC, so the Detroit Lions can clinch a playoff spot, not the division, just the playoff spot, with a win, and they need the following 3. The following 3 teams need to lose: the 49ers, the Cardinals, and the Seahawks. So 49ers play the Bills, Cardinals play the Vikings, Seahawks play the Jets. So good luck with the Seahawks one, but whatever. So they need those 3 teams to lose and one of the following. Either Tampa loses to the Panthers or both the Commanders and the Falcons lose. So a lot of help.
There's a lot of moving parts going on there.
A lot of moving parts there. I actually retweeted this. Ian Rappaport tweeted this out. So I retweeted it from our account. So if you want to check that out at bless_dem_boys. So, yeah, potential. The Detroit one's a little far-fetched, but, we could have a division champion crown by the end of the weekend. So, excuse me. All right, now let's move on to George is getting upset.
This is not good. Worlds are colliding. George is getting upset.
All right, so Brandon, you look like you are rolling with the Patriots to upset the Colts here.
Yeah, and we talked about this. Like, I wouldn't mind the Jaguars, but the quarterback situation is kind of an issue there. So this is really just based on the fact that, like, I kind of like Drake May a little bit better than I like Anthony Richardson. I'm not particularly excited about the Patriots defense right now, but the fact that the Patriots are at home, I'm just going to kind of roll with them. It's a 2.5 point spread. So it's kind of I don't know if about a coin flip is necessarily the way to say it, but I think they've got a chance given the fact that I like their young quarterback here. How about you, Paul? Who are you leaning? Where are you going?
All right. So I did a little research earlier. So I have. So we talked about it. I am now 8-2 on the year. These upset picks. I believe I've won 6 in a row.
You're on the heater.
The last upset pick that I lost that I could find was I picked the Cardinals to upset the Packers earlier in the year, and that was the last one I lost. So, with that being said, I'm going to go Cardinals upset the Vikings.
All right. And take the Denny Green special.
So I'm going to take the Denny Green special. So that means as we go to Jerry, it's a lock.
Jerry, it's a lock. Kramer, you've had this thing under control for almost 3 years now.
What's your lock, Brandon?
All right. I kind of look. There's not a lot of like teams that I feel super confident in right now. I think a lot of the ones that I kind of saw as like potential is like I could see that not happening. So I'm going to go, and I don't like particularly doing this again, but I'm going to go with the Chiefs over the Raiders here. I kind of considered I didn't want to go back to the Lions again because I feel like just going to the Lions over and over again feels like cheating. I don't feel particularly great about going with the continuing to go against the Raiders. Continuing to go against the Raiders, but I'm going to take the Chiefs over the Raiders. I do have the Raiders to cover in our picks, but it is a big spread, so I still think the Chiefs end up getting the win here. How about you, Paul?
Okay. All right. So real quick before we get to my lock, so the Bless Them Boys special is Cardinals over Vikings, Chiefs over Raiders, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. You're upset. You're upset. My lock.
Yeah. That's the who's the Immaculate Grid match there? Steve Breston?
Stevie Breston. That is a pull right there.
That's a deep cut. Huh?
That is a deep cut.
Okay, while I'm looking this up, so to make things interesting, I forgot we discussed this earlier, but so your upset is the Patriots. So I'm going to make my lock the Colts, which means I have to go back and change my pick for that game because originally I took the points with the Patriots, but I'm going to go ahead and lay the points with the Colts, and I'm going to lock it in as my my lock of the week. And I got to look up here. Who can we play for our Bless Them Boys special? Oh, Honey Badger. Tyrann Mathieu.
There you go.
Yeah, of course.
Saints legend as well.
Saints legend. Also, how about Blaine Gabbert?
Yo Gabba Gabbert.
Yo Gabba Gabbert. Yeah. But yeah, Steve Breston is the Immaculate Grid. Boy, I really pulled that. Oh yeah, or somebody named DeAndre Hopkins too. Yeah, you can do that. How about Terrell Suggs? Yeah.
Whoa, Terrell Suggs, man.
How about Dave Krieg?
That's a good one.
Grid legend there. Oh, Jason Babin. We talked about Jason.
I was going to say. I feel like there's somebody here that we've actually used frequently. Babin's the guy right there.
Another Longhorn legend, Alex Okafor.
Okay.
I like how you said that. Okay.
Okay. No relation to Jaleel Okafor.
No. You would know better than I. But I really set you up with these Longhorn guys today, and you just kind of like.
That guy.
Womp womp. All right. All right. Anything else to tell the fine folks before we sign off for the week?
No, but we at Bless Them Boys want to. Oh, you know what we forgot to do is we want to give a shout out to the Cowboys defensive back.
Oh yeah. Go ahead. Let's. We got time. Shout out. Give him a shout.
Butler, Josh Butler, who had an incredible game against the Commanders. Basically made the practice squad this year after playing his last game in college in 2019, but had a great game this week. Just a big shout out to him just for continuing to follow his dream and also for the fact that he has 3 million followers on TikTok. Mr. Butler, if you would like to also give our podcast a shout. Give our podcast a shout.
Right.
So return the favor.
Well, he,
You
I
know,
believe he was like a reality TV. Like, didn't he do like a? I
he's
think I
done.
read something like
He's done acting. He's released a music album, and then in 2023
right.
he signed with the Michigan Panthers. The Cowboys have found like multiple. So Cavante Turpin, Brandon Aubrey, and now Mr. Butler have all been. Josh Butler have all been former XFL/USFL players who they found to be like actual contributors. Like this guy was good. Like it was not like he just kind of filled in and like he
He
made multiple pass breakups this week. So big shout out
so
to him.
he had 12 tackles, 10 of them solo. He had 1 sack and he had 3 pass breakups. But he is at Josh Butler TV is his Twitter handle.
We'll be sure to tag, we'll be sure to tag him in this episode's.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's a great story. I think when he graduated or when he went to visit Michigan State, both his parents had passed away by that point, so he brought his
for his
2 dogs with him
for senior day. I think it was like he brought.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, that's what it was.
Day.
He brought. Yeah, because his parents had both unfortunately passed away by that point. So yeah, shout out to him, man. Keep doing what you're doing there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think you were going to say we want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Be careful. Yeah. Be careful frying those turkeys.
Yeah, the Cowboys are favored, so be careful. Set your expectations accordingly.
Get your nap in. During the Cowboys Giants game, if you so choose.
If you don't want to watch Cooper Rush against either Drew Lock or Tommy DeVito, load up on tryptophan.
Listen, that's a primetime game any day of the week, right?
That's right.
At least Thursday this week. Okay, so we're gonna sign off for the week. When we next talk, we'll hopefully the tryptophan will be out of our systems. But until then, happy football, everyone.
Happy football.